Hey everyone, per your requests, I'm starting Soul Land 5, The Rebirth of Tang San today. My channel isn't monetized, so if you're able to, please support me on PayPal to help me stay active. Chapters 201 through 220 of the previous episode, retreating temporarily from Kali Academy, Tang San meticulously plans the integration of his bloodline imprints to avoid the plane's suppression when he eventually attempts to reach the god level. He selects the Golden Rock Transformation as his fifth imprint, gaining the ability to fly. However, the unexpected integration of the Celestial Fox Transformation, the most formidable first-tier bloodline, causes chaos within his Dantian. Using a sliver of his past life God-King consciousness, Tang San forces the Celestial Fox imprint into submission, merging it with his Discerning Eye to form the Discerning Eye of Heaven. This fusion not only liquefies his spiritual power, elevating it to an extremely high tier, but also successfully masks his otherworldly aura from the plane's scrutiny. Empowered by his new abilities, Tang San continues to covertly protect Mei Gongzi. When she is cornered by forces from the Peacock Demon and Golden Lion clans, Tang San, under the alias Ashura, uses his godly Zhuka crossbows to provide cover fire, enabling her to successfully assassinate the Ninth Order chieftain of the Titan Bear clan. Following this, Tang San and his master, Zhang Haoshun, attend a grand auction in Kali City. There, Tang San purchases 18 slave girls possessing the Crimson Fox bloodline. Intending to liberate and train them, he also acquires a highly precious piece of heavenly fire essence iron, which he plans to use as a forging hammer to craft top-tier Tang.
Hearing his words, the 18 young girls seemed bewildered, as if they didn't and oppose. T quite grasp what he was saying. Tang San didn't and oppose. T say much, knowing from personal experience what brainwashed human slaves were like. Change would take time, but the priority was to take care of the most important matters first. Master let an oppose. Go outside the waterfall. You all can come with me, Tang San called out to the 18 Crimson Fox girls. Returning to the waterfall, Zhang Haoshun parted the water curtain with both hands. Tang San gathered the 18 girls by his side, then enveloped them in a whirlwind, flinging them onto the shore. They panicked and shrieked as they flew, but with his exquisite control over the wind element, each Crimson Fox girl was placed lightly and safely on the bank. Then Tang San, along with Zhang Haoshun, also went ashore. The girls and oppos, gazes toward him changed instantly. Their eyes widened at the miraculous manipulation of the wind element. Although naive in the ways of the world, they naturally held a deep respect for the powerful. In addition, Tang San looked around their age, making him more approachable than the fearsome demons. Their fear diminished considerably, replaced by a growing curiosity as they looked at him. Tang San told Zhang Haoshun, Master, I and oppos, I'll begin now. I must not be disturbed. Please guard me. All right, Zhang Haoshun nodded, curious about what Tang San was about to do. Tang San looked up towards the sun, then at the pond, and began walking around it. He walked with purpose, radiating spiritual power. His eyes shined with white light, characteristic of the Celestial Fox transformation. The choice of location was crucial for his next task, as he sought to maximize his luck. After circling the outer rim of the pond twice, he finally stopped about 5 meters from the pond. He removed a golden branch from his storage bracelet and slowly began to draw something on the muddy ground. His movements were slow, yet entirely focused. Zhang Haoshun could feel the intense fluctuations of Tang San and Appo's spiritual power, which were so strong that even he was surprised. Is the effect of the purple sun fruit this good? This kid's spiritual power might well be stronger than mine, thought Zhang Haoshun. Tang San drew with great seriousness. One after the other, crisscrossing lines appeared on the ground. Though simply etched in mud, the lines carried an air of mystery, almost as if he were painting an abstract piece of art. Zhang Haoshun understood that Tang San was outlining a spirit summoning array. He couldn't and oppos, T helped but move closer to watch, but when he did that, he found that he couldn't oppose. T comprehend it. Even though it had no energy fluctuations, there was something about the array that felt both ominous and profound. Tang San continued without pause, each stroke enhancing the complexity of the array, expanding its scope. The Crimson Fox girls, patient and distant, watched with faces full of curiosity, even more clueless than the mayor about what Tang San was doing. An hour later, a complex pattern over 5 meters in diameter had been drawn on the shore of the small pond. It had many concentric patterns and intersecting lines, the meaning of which was unclear. But once fully lined, that mysterious aura Zhang Haoshuan felt became even more distinct. Golden light flickered behind Tang San, and a pair of massive wings unfolded, the golden rock transformation. He gently flapped his wings, lifting his body into the air. He didn't oppose. T used the wind element to float because drawing the array had considerably drained his spiritual power. Poor control of the wind element could destroy the array below, rendering all his efforts futile. He flew above the array and oppose. S center took a deep breath and slowly drove the piece of golden wood into the ground, burying it more than halfway. A faint golden color appeared on the surface of the wood, and the entire array, seemingly just lines in the mud, seemed to tremble slightly. A faint smile appeared on Tang San and Appo's lips. He could feel that the array he had drawn was flawless. Subsequently, he took out another piece of golden wood and inserted it into the second position, followed by a third and a fourth. Zhang Haoshuan and Appo's eyes gradually widened in shock. Watching Tang San insert the pieces of golden wood into the array, he noticed that the lines seemed to come alive, resonating at the same frequency. During Tang San and Appo's earlier drawing of the array, Zhang Haoshuan had already discerned some of its mysteries. Tang San and Appo's spiritual power constantly remained over each line, infusing them with his energy, making these seemingly random lines function as a whole. As the pieces of golden wood were inserted, it was like adding the finishing touches to a painting, illuminating the entire array. Accompanied by vibrations, the spiritual power within the array increased, and they began to resonate with energy fluctuations of the same frequency. These vibrations were not from the mud or the golden wood but felt like a dense fusion of the world and Appo's elemental energy. This marvelous array was undoubtedly drawing the world and Appo's spiritual energy and converging towards it, communicating with the heavens and earth. This feature alone indicated the success of Tang San and Appo's array. The golden woods fell into the array one by one. With each additional piece, the gold color on the surface of the other pieces became more intense, appearing both strange and dazzling. Finally, the last piece of golden wood appeared in Tang San and Appo's hand. His spiritual power surged instantly, and his eyes emitted a blazing white light. He felt a peculiar sensation. It was the little bit of extra luck he needed right now. With a small thud, the golden wood in his hand fell to the ground, precisely inserted into its designated spot. A loud hum resounded, followed by a transparent golden halo rippling outward instantly. Every piece of golden wood began to tremble violently, causing ripples to spread across the pond and Appo's surface. Tang San floated to the ground, his face somewhat pale. He deactivated the golden rock transformation, but he could not be any more excited. Each piece of golden wood emitted a soft golden halo, and the vibration gradually stabilized from the intensity. The gold on their surfaces began to flow downward, merging into the array below. As they passed Zhang Haoshuan and the Crimson Fox girls, the expanding golden halos didn't oppose. Tea seemed to affect them but added an indescribable essence to the surroundings. Zhang Haoshuan, the one with the strongest perception around, noticed that the spiritual energy here seemed to grow richer with the completion of the array. Initially subtle, it increased steadily and continuously over time. The spiritual energy didn't oppose. Tea dispersed into the air but flowed toward the array, quietly disappearing into it. Tang San sat down on the spot, meditating to recover his previously expended energy. Zhang Haoshuan circled the array a few times, silently sensing its changes. This array did more than communicate with the heavens and earth. It absorbed the external spiritual energy. Even more peculiar was that the speed at which the spiritual energy was being absorbed gradually increased. The pieces of golden wood, now resembling ordinary branches, and the array below, with golden halos flowing through it intermittently, looked genuinely wondrous. Half an hour later, Tang San reopened his eyes, having regained his spirits. He stood up, approached the Crimson Fox girls and asked, "Have you all learned meditation?" Red One, evidently the eldest of the 18 girls, nodded slightly and said, "Yes, we have. Our clan taught us, especially since we and Appos, we all awakened our bloodlines. They told us that if we could rely on meditation to cultivate and break through, we might become vassals. But later it turned out that our bloodlines were too diluted and Shikuden and Appos, T helped but tear up at this point." Tang San nodded and said, "It and Appos, fine, it's good enough that you and Appos, learned. From today onward, aside from eating and sleeping, try meditating within 3 meters of the circle I and Appos, V drawn. This is the first task I am giving you. Remember one thing. You must not enter the circle or disturb anything inside it. Do you understand?" The Crimson Fox girls nodded in understanding. Zhang Haoshuan turned to Tang San, frowning slightly. "If you set up this array here, what will happen if a demonic beast comes? They can and Appos, T stop a demonic beast if it wants to cause trouble." Tang San smiled slightly. "Don't worry, there will be no animals or demonic beasts. This array naturally repels them." Golden wood was bits of the golden tree, a supreme life form of the plant attribute. It naturally repelled all beasts, and Tang San had amplified this effect through the array. Therefore, it would not attract demonic beasts. What is the purpose of this array? It doesn't seem like it's just meant for meditation. Tang San said, "It isn't. I want to grow a tree. I believe that in a month at most it will take root and sprout." Zhang Haoshuan was startled. "You want to grow this golden wood into a tree? What's the use of it? I've never heard about it being anything special." Tang San smiled and said, "That and Appos. Because the demons do not understand its wonderful uses. Some nymphs probably know a bit about it, but only superficially. The most powerful aspect of the golden wood is its ability to gather life energy. As it grows, it will absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth and convert it into life energy. These girls practicing around it will receive some life energy, which will benefit the awakening of their bloodlines." Zhang Haoshuan and Appos' eyes lit up. "What about us? Can we benefit too?" "Not for now, it's barely even started to grow. But if it grows into a towering tree, the life force it contains will be enough to nourish stronger beings, so it'll help us as well." Zhang Haoshuan took a deep breath. "So, the main purpose of this array is to accelerate its growth?" "Yes, the spirit summoning array has the function of gathering spiritual energy. If I just planted these pieces of golden wood in the ground, they would grow, but it would take hundreds of years to reach a decent size. This spirit summoning array is a kind of fertilizer for them, and the best part is that it uses the trees themselves as the core. The more they grow, the more energy they absorb, but the more they grow, the stronger the spirit summoning array gets, which means it can absorb more spiritual energy and make them grow even faster." Zhang Haoshuan asked, "So, theoretically, your array should work on all treasure plants?" Tang San replied, "Yes, but most of them are way too conspicuous once they grow, so they'd be more trouble than help." "Well, unless you can have some kind of mighty monster guard them." Zhang Haoshuan nodded in understanding. "Can you sell this to the organization?" "Sell?" Tang San was momentarily startled. Zhang Haoshuan said, "Well, we can and Appos, T just take it from you for nothing. You can make your demands. If anything, the organization will think it's weird if they could get their hands on this kind of thing for free. No worries, I will cover for you." He had never reported Tang San and Appos' actual situation, primarily to allow Tang San to grow better. But his disciples' rate of growth had always exceeded his expectations. Tang San nodded. "Okay, I and Appos, LL make some adjustments, draw it for you and then teach you how to set it up." Seeing his ready agreement, Zhang Haoshuan and Appos' face immediately showed a smile. He patted his disciple's shoulder. "I think I'm seeing the future more and more clearly." "Well, I think it's a future to look forward to," Tang San responded with a smile. The Crimson Fox girls obediently followed Tang San and Appos' instructions, practicing around the perimeter of the spirit summoning array. The golden wood had just begun to absorb spiritual energy, so there was no life energy yet, but the spiritual energy gathered by the array also passed through them. This energy would increase as the golden wood grew. Although the growth rate was slowest at the start, it was most suitable for these Crimson Fox girls, who had only first or second order cultivations, to absorb and stabilize their bloodline power. Tang San observed the girls meditating for a while. Their simple minds made it easy to enter a state of meditation. Zhang Haoshuan, however, decided to stay in guard for a while, wanting to observe the effects of the spirit summoning array closely. He asked Tang San to go back first and draw a diagram of the array. After bidding farewell to Zhang Haoshuan, Tang San returned to the Redemption Academy to draw the array diagram, which was a simple task for him. By evening, he had completed the diagram. However, he wooed and oppose. Go there today. Zhang Haoshuan had said it was fine if he returned within 3 days. He planned to continue his cultivation at Kali Academy in the evening. His spiritual power was gradually approaching the peak of the 9th order. Since his bloodline power couldn't and oppose, be enhanced immediately as he waited for his companions, he intended to continue refining his spiritual power and nurturing his divine consciousness. Just as he stepped out, preparing to leave Redemption Academy, he ran into Wu Bingji. Seeing Tang San, Wu Bingji was momentarily stunned, then moved in front of Tang San to stop him from leaving. "Senior brother, how are you doing?" Tang San greeted him with a smile. "Looking for you, little brother. The teachers are almost forgetting that you and Oppos, a student here. Why aren't an Oppos? You attending classes now?" Wu Bingji asked in a somewhat annoyed tone. Tang San scratched his head and explained, "The mayor has been giving me individual guidance lately, and I have to work at Kali Academy during the day, so I spend less time at our academy." Wu Bingji said, "Thank you for the purple sun fruits. The mayor has told us all about them. They're amazing. My spiritual power has improved a lot, and it and Oppos is actually beginning to liquefy." Tang San smiled. "That's the result of our efforts, not just mine. How has your cultivation been going recently, senior brother?" Upon hearing the mention of cultivation, Wu Bingji and Oppos' eyes lit up. Now that you ask, it and Oppos' going pretty well. With my increased spiritual power, controlling the ice element is much easier. I can now almost instantly condense ice needles, and I've nearly mastered the 2-stage acceleration. Do you have any new techniques to teach me? Tang San chuckled inwardly. As expected, this was Wu Bingji and Oppos' real reason for stopping him. After all, Zhang Haoshuan had already covered for him regarding the fact that he wasn't attending classes. Tang San replied, "Now that you and Oppos' mastered the ice needles and 2-stage acceleration, you can practice more complex techniques." Even more complex. Wu Bingji and Oppos' eyes shone brightly this time. Ever since he learned to control ice elemental energy, he had felt his strength improve by leaps and bounds, both in terms of cultivation level and when it came to his comprehension and application of the ice element. He could even hold his own to some extent against Teacher Guan if he used the ice needles and the 2-stage acceleration. Tang San nodded and said, "I and Oppos' I'll teach you a very complex technique based on the ice needles. That's one part, and the other is the 2-stage acceleration plus the ice explosion technique. If you master it, I don't think anyone at your level will be able to beat you. The heck are you waiting for then?" Wu Bingji blurted out, but he then felt slightly embarrassed. Tang San smiled and said, "Well, you must strengthen your spiritual power because this technique requires higher spiritual power. How are you progressing with the purple demon eyes?" All team members were now cultivating the purple demon eyes. Dubai was progressing the fastest, as his bloodline was naturally the most adept at spiritual power. Wu Bingji also had decent spiritual power and had already started to work on it anyway. "At first, I was progressing pretty slowly, but the purple sun fruit seems very beneficial for cultivating the purple demon eyes. Recently, I and Oppos' made a lot of progress. I can now project my spiritual power outside and use it to attack." "Good. Well, the technique is something I've shown you before, the soul-chasing cluster ball. If you remember, I created 2 of them, but you should start with a single soul-chasing cluster ball." The original soul-chasing cluster ball was a hidden metal weapon with extraordinary power. But with Wu Bingji and Oppos' ice nymph transformation, Tang San devised a way to use the ice element instead. With that, the technique would be even more powerful and effective. First, you need to condense ice needles and prepare them for the 2-stage acceleration. Initially, you can start with 2 ice needles and wrap them in an ice shell that you throw at the target. The shell will explode on contact, or you can detonate it yourself. However, if the explosion crushes the ice needles, it's all useless. You have to make it so it pushes the needles forward, so the way you condense this shell is the most important thing. Then the needles get a second burst of speed in midair, so the opponent will find it very difficult to dodge them. And finally, when the needles hit the target, you can make them explode. Listening to his theories, Wu Bingji was dumbfounded. Can I really do something like that now? Wait, you're able to do it using the wind element, right? Tang San shrugged. Well, that was just an imitation. I can't really do it. Not yet anyway. I'll be able to do the proper technique when I reach the god level probably. The wind element is too wild, so it's hard to maintain stability. But the ice element is much more stable. I think you can do it now. Wu Bingji didn't even know if he was supposed to laugh or cry. What the hell now? It took me so long even just to learn how to do that 2-step acceleration thing, and now you want me to add all this stuff? Is it even something I can control? Tang San smiled and said if it was easy, everybody would do it. This is definitely one of the best hidden weapon techniques, so of course it's challenging. So let and oppose. Take it gradually, step by step. When you can put a few hundreds of ice needles within one cluster, it means you've mastered it. Let me first teach you how to create the shell. You can start by clustering a small number of icicles, without the second acceleration stage. Actually, the soul-chasing cluster ball is meant to be launched in pairs. A single one won't work if the target dodges and you can't detonate it in time, it won't work. With 2, you can use the moon-chasing meteor technique or dragons playing with pearl to make them collide independently. Wait, what in oppose? This about meteors and dragons again? I and oppose. I'm getting a bit dizzy, Wu Bingji said helplessly. Take it slow. We and oppose. LL go step by step. I and oppose. LL first teach you how to refine the ice cluster, and you can start by mastering that, Tang San said, and then began to explain the method of creating the ice cluster to Wu Bingji. Although Wu Bingji felt that the soul-chasing cluster ball was a massive challenge, he listened very attentively. Slowly, without even realizing it, he entered a state of comprehension. By the time he understood the principles, Tang San had already left. However, Tang San did not leave the academy directly but went to look for his senior brothers and sisters. He had indeed been here a lot less recently, and since he just met his eldest senior brother anyway, he took the opportunity to check on the others and oppose, cultivation progress. Senior brother Dubai, Tang San first went to Dubai and oppo's room. Little Tang, you and oppose re back? I haven't seen you around lately. When Dubai opened the door and saw him, he immediately hugged him. Tang San followed him into the room and closed the door. How and oppose, it going? Tang San asked with a smile. Dubai said excitedly, the purple sun fruit is amazing. My spiritual power has now completely liquefied, and my entire sea of consciousness has expanded. Recently, my spiritual power has increased a lot, and it's increasing so much every day that I can't even believe it. Also, I can feel that my bloodline power is changing. It and oppose. As if the spiritual power can filter my bloodline power and make it purer. Tang San nodded and said that and oppose. The benefit of improving your spiritual power. Do you feel like you and oppose about to break through to the 5th order? Not yet. I and oppose. We only eaten 1 purple sun fruit. After I eat another one, I think I should have a good chance. Tang San and oppose. Eyes brightened. That and oppose. Great. I'm looking forward to your breakthrough. Activate your purple demon eyes, and let me see the strength of your spiritual power now. Dubai turned around facing Tang San. His eyes instantly turned purple, and 2 streaks of purple lightning-like rays flashed from his eyes. The almost tangible purple light shot out more than a foot, cohesive and undispersed, almost inducing Tang San and oppo's discerning eye of heaven to activate on its own due to the strong spiritual fluctuations. As the light receded, Dubai, brimming with joy, turned to Tang San. How is it? How is it? Tang San gave him a thumbs up. Very good. In terms of spiritual power, you and oppose already comparable to an ordinary 7th order demon. Once your celestial fox vision breaks through to the 5th order, I think you'll get another boost in spiritual power. Damn, this is a top-tier bloodline for you. He's just at the 4th order. Yet his spiritual power has reached the 7th order. Tang San's own spiritual power was greater, of course, but Dubai didn't have the advantage of a divine consciousness nurturing it, so the development of his spiritual power to this extent had to be strictly related to his celestial fox bloodline. I and Appos am getting more and more confident, and I think the greatest luck the celestial fox vision has granted me is bringing you to my side. Ha ha ha. Since the celestial fox vision began to improve, the gloom in Dubai and Appos' heart gradually dissipated. Just at the 4th order of the celestial fox vision, it already played a significant role. Naturally, it would only have a greater effect once it reached the 5th order. Tang San said, "No, meeting you all is my luck." Following Tang San's cultivation method, Dubai and Appos' celestial fox vision should have the opportunity to advance to the 6th order. However, the threshold from the 6th to the 7th order could not be driven solely by spiritual power. His spiritual power should reach the 9th order when he reached the 6th order. However, spiritual power alone couldn't, and Appos' reached the higher level of divine consciousness. Thus, when his spiritual power hit that bottleneck, in order to continue enhancing the celestial fox vision, he could only do his best to evolve his bloodline. This was a troublesome issue. It would only be possible if he could hunt a high-order member of the celestial foxes and use its blood. But the celestial foxes were children of fortune. Putting aside high-order members, even low-order members were ridiculously difficult to hunt. This was a major problem. He could only see if the Redemption Society could find a way to collect blood from the celestial foxes. Of course, he Wooden and Appos tell Dubai these things now. For now, he had provided Dubai with as many as 5 purple sun fruits. If 2 could stimulate him to advance to the 5th order of the celestial fox vision, the other 3 were likely to bring him close to the 6th order, if not all the way across the threshold. Tang San wanted to break through to the 7th order after bringing all his demonic god transformations to the peak of the 6th order, so they could break through together. The possibility for the discerning eye of heaven to break through seemed slim, but the other ones had a good chance. He had already prepared to replace the leopard flash, and what to replace it with was unquestionable. The peacock demon would grant him the power to control space, not to mention that it was a far higher tier bloodline than that of the flash leopards. Mei Gongzi was now at the 7th order, and it should be relatively easy for Tang San to siphon some bloodline power from his future wife. After all, he would have plenty of opportunities to do so while accompanying Mei Gongzi on missions. The Blue-Silver Emperor could also be elevated to the 7th order without issue. As for the others, the discerning eye of heaven only needed to reach the 5th order. It would take it too long to reach the 6th order, and he needed to enhance his overall strength now, so he could only pursue that later. Gu Li's Chrono Croc transformation was close enough to reaching the 6th order, as was the Golden Rock transformation. Once Gu Li and Chang Ziqing broke through to the 6th order, Tang San could prepare to make his breakthrough as well. Among his 6 demonic god transformations, the core was the discerning eye of heaven, while the least important was the leopard flash. He planned to replace leopard flash with the peacock transformation, as the peacock demon clan had a far superior bloodline. As for the wind tiger transformation, he would not replace it for now, as it served to conceal his identity. Among the 6 demonic god transformations, 3 would reach a level where they could break through to the 7th order directly, 2 would be at the 6th order, and 1 at the 5th. At that point, he would be ready for an overall breakthrough to the 7th order. After bidding farewell to Dubai, Tang San visited Gu Li and Chang Ziqing in succession. To his great surprise, Chang Ziqing had already completed her breakthrough to the 6th order, and the power of her Golden Rock transformation had greatly increased. Gu Li was also not far from reaching the 6th order. Thanks to the effect of the purple sun fruit, his spiritual power had accelerated, allowing his understanding of the Chrono Croc transformation to deepen significantly. When Dubai broke into the 5th order, he would also have the opportunity to break through to the 6th order. After visiting his senior brothers and sisters, Tang San returned to Kali Academy under the cover of night, entering the academy and Appos' store to continue his cultivation as usual. 2 days later, when Tang San returned to the pool beside the Kali mountain range, his eyes immediately shone with surprise. From afar, he could sense the changes in the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. The gentle spiritual energy was omnipresent in the air, but it slowly converged in one direction. Beside the pool, the Crimson Fox girls were meditating in a circle around it, and Zhang Haoshuan was also there sitting in meditation. The golden wood inserted in the spirit summoning array seemed unchanged at a glance, but when Tang San looked closer, he could see that a subtle aura of life energy emanated from it. Thanks to the abilities of the Blue-Silver Emperor, Tang San had the clearest perception of this. This aura was life force, and the fact that it radiated life force meant that these golden wood had actually taken root. His spirit summoning array was quite effective. Of course, this was possible thanks to being on the demon continent, where the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was vibrant, especially within the Kali mountain range. The spiritual energy gathered by the spirit summoning array naturally integrated with and sped up the growth of the golden wood. Even a few roots signified an early awakening for the golden wood, which showed that it would grow immensely in the future. Zhang Haoshuan opened his eyes and looked at Tang San with a somewhat unusual gaze. Master, Tang San quickly approached him, respectfully saluting. Amazing, truly amazing, Zhang Haoshuan exclaimed. Over the past 2 days, he had been observing the operation of the spirit summoning array. The more he observed, the more he became fascinated by it. This array with several interlocking layers communicated with heaven and earth on its own, drawing in the spiritual energy and focusing it onto the golden wood. Within a few days, the rate of spiritual energy convergence had increased significantly, and he could also feel some changes in the golden wood. As the focal point of the array, the evolution of the golden wood would enhance the effect of the spirit summoning array, which in turn would fertilize the wood and allow it to grow faster. This was simply marvelous. Tang San handed over the array diagram to Zhang Haoshuan. Honestly, I and Appos am not even sure if I should accept this diagram from you. It would be hard for the organization to find something worthy to exchange for it, Zhang Haoshuan said with a wry smile. Tang San smiled. I didn't and Appos intend to ask for anything in return. Zhang Haoshuan shook his head. That one and Appos do. This array is too precious. I can assure you that even the ancestral court might not have such an exquisite array. What do you want in exchange? If I have to choose something, I would like high-order celestial fox blood for senior brother Dubai. Given his bloodline strength, the 6th order might be his limit. To advance further, he would need higher bloodline purity. For Dubai? But what about you? Tang San smiled. Whether Dubai gets it or I do, what's the difference? Zhang Haoshuan shook his head with a bitter smile. The blood of the celestial fox is probably the most precious among all demons. It and Appos is almost impossible to obtain. The celestial foxes are very few in numbers, and they value their bloodline far more than you can imagine. No rush. After all, Dubai will take some time to reach the 6th order. Just mention it to the organization for now. If there and Appos a chance, give it a try. Zhang Haoshuan responded, okay, I and Appos, I'll try it later. Explain the array to me. I'll stay here with the diagram for the time being and try to learn the spirit summoning array. Meanwhile, I and Appos, I'll also watch the golden wood for you. These little girls are very obedient. They're doing nothing but meditating except for eating and sleeping. I hope this golden wood can really help them evolve and become a support for you in the future. Tang San thought that if he managed to train them, the only way to deal with them would be to send them to Mei Gongzi. Otherwise, if she saw that he had so many girls around him, and they were from the Fox clan, he could declare his pursuit of a wife a failure. Cultivation and sweeping once again became Tang San and Appos' daily routine. After careful consideration, he also consumed the 2nd purple sun fruit. The effect was not as good as the first one, but it also brought his spiritual power closer to perfection. The greater his spiritual power, the better the nourishment for his divine consciousness. This was what he needed the most. In a blink of an eye, another 2 weeks passed. That evening, after finishing his day and Appos' cleaning tasks, Tang San was preparing to report back to Old Mao when he saw Mei Gongzi coming out of the main school building. He had been seeing her regularly recently, every 2 or 3 days, but Mei Gongzi had not spoken to him or sought him out again, treating him as if he were a stranger. Tang San wasn't and Appos uncomfortable with this. He understood that Mei Gongzi didn't and Appos want to get too close to him to avoid causing him trouble. She wanted him to be able to grow without being noticed. Yet, when he saw Mei Gongzi today, he noticed she was holding a cup of milk tea. Tang San silently returned to the school workers and Appo's cottage, greeted old Mao, and left his broom. Mei Gongzi, holding the milk tea, walked out of the Kali Academy gate and stood on one side, silently drinking her tea, her gaze randomly scanning the surroundings. It had been nearly 20 days since the last incident. The Titan bear she had killed was the eldest son of the Titan Bear King. Naturally, after learning of this, the Titan Bear King had flown into a rage, causing a commotion in Kali City for several days, searching everywhere for the murderer. The wounds on his son's body showed claw marks, tiger claw marks. Given the Titan Bear and Appo's defensive strength, there were naturally not many kinds of tiger demons capable of breaching the Titan Bear and Appo's hide, much less its energy shield. Additionally, there were wounds on its back clearly caused by some kind of arrows or bolts, and upon analysis, it was also clear that the Titan Bear had been poisoned. In other words, it was an ambush. The murder of the Titan Bear King and Appo's son in his own home greatly enraged and shocked the nobility of Kali City. For the past 20 days, there had been a thorough manhunt within the city. The tiger demon nobles, in particular, were put in a very precarious position. The tiger demons did not have a strong branch in Kali City, but they were one of the top-tier races among all demon races. After all, the tiger had always been known as the king of beasts. This incident even alarmed the main lineage of the tiger demons, the Golden Tiger clan, whose leader ordered a thorough investigation in another central city. The result of the thorough investigation naturally yielded no results. If Tang San had been aware of this information, obviously not publicized since it pertained to high-ranked demon nobility, he could have easily deduced that the other one of Mei Gongzi and Appo's demonic god transformations came from a tiger demon bloodline. Suddenly, Mei Gongzi heard a faint voice in her ear. Walk into the woods and go to the right. Her heart stirred, and holding her milk tea, she followed the instructions. In the forest, Azura stood clad in black, silently watching her. He really came. Curiosity flickered in Mei Gongzi and Appo's heart. How did he even know I was there holding the milk tea? Wait, does this mean he comes here every evening? Let and Appo's talk at your small inn. We and Appo's go separately. With these words, Azura turned and activated Leopard Flash, disappearing swiftly. Mei Gongzi watched his departing figure for a moment, then returned to the main road and hurried on. Azura emerged from a dark corner just as she reached the small inn next to Kali Plaza. Without a word, he followed her into the inn. They entered the room Mei Gongzi had once taken Tang San into and closed the door. Have you been following me all this time? Mei Gongzi and Appo's gaze suddenly sharpened. Do you not trust me? Azura retorted. Their eyes met and Mei Gongzi and Appo's brow furrowed. Considering Azura and Appo's previous actions, he seemed to be on her side. But what was the purpose of this stranger? If it weren't and Appo's for the fact that he was human, Mei Gongzi would have long since taken action against him, especially after he discovered her secret last time. Azura asked what in Appo's the plan this time? Mei Gongzi took a deep breath, suppressing the doubts in her heart. The target is the Wind Wolf King. Peak 9th Order. There are no god-level wind wolves in Kali City right now, that and Appo's confirmed. The Wind Wolves? Hearing this name, a slight tremor ran through Azura and Appo's heart, for it was this exact demon clan that he originally belonged to. He harbored a deep hatred for the Wind Wolves, as his mother in this world had perished at their hands. And back then he was utterly powerless. He was bound to visit the Wind Wolves someday, and the priest from the Wind Wolf town topped his kill list. Good. Do you have a map? Azura asked. Yes. Mei Gongzi took out a leather map scroll and spread it on the table. The Wind Wolves and Appo's residence is nearby. Apart from the elder stationed at the ancestral court, there are no other god-level powerhouses in the entire clan. Recently they and Appo's frequently clashed with the Flash Leopard clan, so targeting them would not easily reveal our identities. Azura looked at the map as Mei Gongzi spoke. The day after tomorrow is the annual sacrificial ceremony of the Wind Wolves. They use human slaves for blood sacrifices to their ancestors. The ceremony will be held at the altar behind their ancestral residence. The king and many Wind Wolf leaders will participate. That time is when the strongest members are at the ancestral residence. But according to the Wind Wolves and Appo's customs, There will be a celebratory feast after the sacrifice. I plan to act at night after that feast. Azura looked at the map, nodded and said, It and Appos, a good idea. That is when they are most relaxed, and many strong ones are present. Are you confident? Mei Gongzi replied, Stealth is one of my strongest points. I and Appos, find the right opportunity, strike accurately, and immediately flee far away. The corner of Azura and Appos' mouth twitched. Just like that? What else? Mei Gongzi looked at him. She had done the same thing last time and had indeed succeeded. Of course Azura had assisted her, but she hadn't and Appos' known that then and was confident in her skills. Is that true stealth though? Azura said. Whether successful or not, the target shouldn't and Appos' discover you before, during, or after. Think of your last attack on the Titan Bear leader. The fact that he was allowed to roar caused all our troubles. Otherwise, you could have assassinated him without anyone noticing, calmly destroyed all traces, and escaped without leaving any clues. How is that possible? Mei Gongzi frowned. The corner of Azura and Appos' mouth twitched again. Indeed, you're still a young girl. What did you say? Mei Gongzi and Appos' brow shot up, her beautiful eyes widening. Cough, nothing. I have a better way, would you like to hear it? Azura quickly added. Speak, Mei Gongzi said indifferently. The feast will involve eating and drinking. We can start from there, Azura suggested. If we can make them fall into a deep sleep, Wooden and Appos', it make executing the plan much easier? Are you suggesting poisoning? Mei Gongzi was stunned. How is that possible? Powerful demons have strong resistance to poison. They simply can and Appos' be poisoned. They can't be poisoned by ordinary poisons. What we and Appos' use is not ordinary, Azura said calmly. Hearing these words, a chill rose from Mei Gongzi and Appos' heart for some reason. Define and Appos', not ordinary and Appos', Mei Gongzi said. How about we make a bet? Azura proposed. If I succeed this time, then you and Appos' have to trust me in the future and stop being on guard all the time. How about it? Consider this my pledge of loyalty. What do you mean by an Appos' pledge of loyalty and Appos'? Mei Gongzi asked, puzzled. A pledge of loyalty is like, when everyone is doing bad things together, I take the initiative to do something bad. You and Appos' tied me to your chariot and got something on me. I haven't and Appos' done anything bad. Mei Gongzi said coldly. Right, no bad deeds. But we and Appos' partners who act together, and partners should trust each other. Consider this as my way of gaining your trust. Azura sounded somewhat helpless. He could sense Mei Gongzi and Appos' wariness towards him. This was even more pronounced than when she was around his true self, with whom she was clearly more relaxed. So what in Appos' your plan of action? Mei Gongzi inquired. Poison the alcohol. The strong flavor of the drinks can easily mask the taste of the poison. I and Appos' add something to the poison so it only takes effect very late. Once they and Appos' already consumed a lot of it and its effects are long-lasting. We can and Appos' use actual deadly poisons, those are too easy to detect, but using a sleeping drug shouldn't be a problem. Once everybody is asleep you can do whatever you want. And kill whoever you want. Mei Gongzi looked at him intently, then let and Appos' try your method. If this is successful, you can be less guarded against me in the future, Azura said. I and Appos' prove to you through my actions that I am a reliable partner. Mei Gongzi responded softly. I and Appos' go first. I and Appos' go back and plan in detail. Let me borrow the map. We and Appos' meet here again the afternoon after next. We and Appos' start our action before evening. Azura rolled up the map and left quickly. Mei Gongzi sat alone in the room, contemplating the exchange she had just had with this mysterious individual. For her, Azura had become even more mysterious. He clearly had more than one demonic god transformation, and he used them effortlessly. She couldn't and Appos' see through his actual strength, as he had never fought at full power in front of her. However, he gave her a sense of danger, so he was definitely powerful. More importantly, the godly Zhuge crossbow that Azura had given her was incredibly useful. The array inscribed on it was ridiculously complex. She had tried to replicate it but failed. If it weren't and oppose, T for the godly Zhuge crossbow she couldn't and oppose, T have killed the Titan bear last time. And now he mentioned making poison. What exactly was it that he couldn't and oppose, T do? From Azura and Appo's somewhat helpless tone she could feel no malice toward her. In addition, he seemed to know a couple of things about her. Could it be that the higher-ups of the Redemption Society had sent him? For a human of his strength, this was the only explanation that made sense. But he didn't and oppose. T admit to being a member of the Redemption Society, which was very strange. Mei Gongzi looked at the figure before her, thinking that if Azura was truly the valuable ally he made himself to be, her plans would be much easier to execute. Recently, her cultivation had hit a bottleneck. After breaking through to the Seventh Order and undergoing a qualitative change, her progress was now hindered by the concentration of her bloodline power. Even with the support of numerous treasure plants and the likes, it had slowed significantly. She left the small inn and headed straight for the milk tea shop in Cali Square. The milk tea shop was an Appo's tea bustling with only Suqin busily at work. Mom, Mei Gongzi called out. Her eyes softened and her tone turned tender and slightly playful. Back already? Come in, Suqin beckoned to her. Mei Gongzi entered the shop from the side and casually picked up a cup of milk tea to drink, but Suqin snatched it away, saying, drink less milk tea. Too much ISN and Appo's tea good for your health. Okay, Mei Gongzi replied obediently, showing no trace of her identity as a nocturnal assassin in front of her mother. Is little Ling resting? She inquired. Yes. It hasn't been all that busy these past few days, so I let her rest, Suqin replied with a smile. He showed up, Mei Gongzi said softly. A glint appeared in Suqin and Appo's eyes. Azura? Yes, Mei Gongzi nodded and quietly recounted the previous events. Suqin and Appo's eyes narrowed slightly. Do you think he can be trusted? Mei Gongzi replied, at least up to now he has always been helping me, and I hope I can trust him. I have already asked the higher-ups about this person and Appo's information, but Haven and Appo's T received a reply yet. But the mayor said that he can be trusted, right? Suqin said. Yes, the mayor said so. Otherwise, I would have done something about him long ago. Mom, my cultivation has been incredibly slow recently. What should I do? Mei Gongzi frowned, evidently distressed. Suqin said softly, this is normal. Once cultivation reaches the Seventh Order, it will slow down regardless of the bloodline. Moreover, you have a dual bloodline, so slowing down is normal. Has Wang Qing been looking for you recently? Yes, he has approached me twice asking about my progress. He seemed a bit anxious about the last auction. The ancestral court will probably not let it go. And neither will the new emperor. Suqin said gravely, this could be a huge crisis we are about to face, but at the same time it and Appo's an opportunity. Continue with the plan for now. I will help you check on this Azura and see if he can be trusted. Okay. Mei Gongzi nodded. Suqin stretched her hand to pull her daughter into her arms and sighed softly. You and Appo's. Not even 14 years old, but you and Appo's. They already shouldered so much responsibility. Unfortunately, child, in this world there is no place for us to live freely. If we don and Appo's struggle and go against the tide, we can only be slaves. You are the hope of humanity, so you must bear this heavy burden. I will always be by your side. I'll always protect you. Mei Gongzi lifted her head to look at her mother, her smile radiant like flowers. Mom, I understand. You don and Appo's need to worry about me. I am strong. Looking at her daughter and Appo's smile, Suqin and Appo's eyes turned somewhat red. Azura did not return to Cali Academy. Instead, he transformed back into Tang San on the way and went directly to the Redemption Society Academy. The Wind Wolf clan was a place of profound memories for him, and the ancestral home of the Wind Wolf clan was one place he had to visit one way or another. He wondered if the old priest from Wind Wolf Town was in the ancestral home. If so, that would be ideal. It could be said that all his negative emotions toward the demon races originally stemmed from the Wind Wolf clan. Thanks to his first life as an apprentice of the Tang sect, as well as founding a new Tang sect himself in his second life, hidden weapons and unique skills related to them were not the only thing he knew. Another major category he excelled at was poison. After coming to this world, and especially after gaining access to the shop of Kali Academy, Tang San was able to study in detail many rare treasure plants, and he had a good grasp of their properties. The plants and poisons in this world were naturally different from his previous life, but many of the basic principles were the same. For him, a veritable poison grandmaster, concocting poisons was extremely easy, even easier than inscribing arrays. After returning to his room and studying the map of the Wind Wolf clan and Appo's ancestral home, Tang San left his room and went to the Redemption Academy and Appo's small shop. It was already past dinner time, and as soon as he entered, Tang San saw Mu Yunyu sitting inside, fiddling with something. "Sister Yu," Tang San greeted with a beaming smile. "Whoa, who is this?" "Iasin and Appo's." "This our busy little Tang San? It and Appo's. It's been a long time," Mu Yunyu said, somewhat disgruntled. Indeed, she hadn't Appo's seen Tang San much at all recently, let alone in class. Although the mayor had spoken to them, the teachers were all still very concerned about Tang San. Since he teamed up with Wu Bingji, Dubai, Chang Zicheng, and Gu Li, their strength had accelerated, now surpassing other students in the academy. The teachers were naturally curious about this. Some even wondered if they were the teachers or if this newcomer was the real teacher. The outdoors training expeditions of the Redemption Academy had become the norm, and indeed, the results were quite good, especially in terms of wilderness survival and practical combat. Tang San was unfazed by Mu Yunyu and Appo's attitude and walked in with a smile. "Sister Yu, I and Appo's am here to buy some things." Mu Yunyu looked him up and down, her eyes showing a hint of confusion. She noticed that Tang San and Appo's energy fluctuations were very calm, almost like those of an ordinary person. Of course, there was no way he was a normal person. This feeling meant that she simply could not see through him. "What in Appo's your current strength?" Mu Yunyu blurted out. Tang San replied, "Sixth order." Mu Yunyu and Appo's mouth twitched. She remembered that Tang San had been only at the fourth order when he arrived. How long had it been? And now he was already at the sixth order? "My master taught me well," Tang San said with a smile. "So we didn't in Appo's teach you well?" Mu Yunyu snorted. Tang San looked her up and down and said, "Sister Yu, have you recently encountered a bottleneck in your cultivation? Is it difficult to break through?" Mu Yunyu was startled. "How did you know?" Tang San explained, "I sense that your bloodline energy is powerful, but there in Appo's a blockage at your heart meridian. It seems like an injury, as if you tried to break through a bottleneck and failed." The surprise in Mu Yunyu and Appo's eyes deepened. She had been at the seventh order for a long time and had already reached the peak of the seventh order. She had recently tried to break through to the eighth order but failed. Indeed, she had suffered a backlash and only stabilized her injury with the help of several teachers. Now she no longer dared to rush the process. The question was, how had Tang San figured it out? Tang San asked, "May I take your pulse?" "Sure." Mu Yunyu, being straightforward by nature, didn't and Appo's mind and extended her right hand to Tang San. Tang San held her wrist, silently feeling her bloodline energy fluctuations. At the same time, he activated his mysterious heaven technique, letting his energy flow inside her and conducting a more detailed examination of her meridians. Mu Yunyu felt a warm, indescribably comfortable energy from Tang San and Appo's hand circulating in her body, noticeably alleviating the discomfort in her chest. "Thank you." Mu Yunyu and Appo's attitude towards him softened noticeably. Tang San asked, "Sister Yu, when you usually cultivate, do you find it difficult when the bloodline power circulates to your lower abdomen?" Mu Yunyu nodded. "I was injured there when I was young. The thing is, because of that injury, the flow of energy is blocked. You tried to solve this by cultivating more, but your hidden injury has never healed, and when you force it like during a breakthrough, it causes problems. You can and Appo's keep pushing your cultivation higher until this issue is resolved." Mu Yunyu suddenly became anxious. "What should I do then?" Tang San said, "The meridians affected by the old injury need to be nourished with warmth. Using fire attribute bloodline energy is the best way to do it. It will get rid of the cold energy from the old injury and warm up your meridians. Once the stagnating bloodline energy starts moving properly, there will be no problem. I think my master is the most suitable to help you." Mu Yunyu breathed a sigh of relief and said, "I see." Then I and Appos, I'll ask the mayor for help later. How do you know so much at such a young age? Tang San smiled and replied, naturally, I was taught by Mayor Zhang. When you know too much, you have to let your teachers take some credit. Anyway, sister Yu, I would like to buy some herbs, Tang San said. Choose them yourself. Tang San entered the store, picked out several herbs he had already decided on, paid for them, bid farewell to Mu Yunyu, and returned to his room to prepare his medicine. Using his heavenly fire essence iron for heating Kuden and Appos, be more convenient. And thus, Tang San began preparing the medicines of his previous lives Tang sect for the first time since arriving in this world. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. After school in the afternoon, Mei Gongzi returned to Kali Square. She had made all sorts of preparations. For her, Azura's plan was just a part of hers. If Azura failed, she would proceed with her own plan. Whether it was the assassination of the leader of the Titan Bears or the attempt she was about to make on the Wind Wolf King, the reason was twofold. One was that these old nobles of Kali City supported the orthodox line of the Peacock Demon clan, which hindered her most crucial plan of inheriting the title of Demon King. The other reason was that these demon clans she attacked were consistently committing crimes against humans. Mei Gongzi and Appos' second type of bloodline cultivation required the accumulation of a murderous aura. Killing strong opponents, especially those above her level, was most beneficial for stimulating her bloodline and enhancing her cultivation. She was not disappointed. Upon arriving at the entrance of the small inn, she spotted a familiar figure in the corner where she had seen him last time. The two entered the inn one after the other and arrived at the room they met in previously. Azura followed her into the room. This was his third visit, so he was familiar with the place. Alas, his purpose here was not for a date. If it were, how wonderful that would be. He took out the map and handed it to Mei Gongzi. Are you ready? Mei Gongzi asked. Azura nodded and said, yes, I am. We and Appos, I'll start the operation shortly. You and Appos, I'll hide at this location in the ancestral home. He spread out the map and pointed at a spot on it. What can I do in the front yard? Mei Gongzi asked, puzzled. Azura replied, you Don and Appos, need to do anything. Just wait for my message. I and Appos, I'll let you know if I run into trouble and need your assistance. Seeing the distrust in Mei Gongzi and Appos' eyes, Azura said helplessly, trust me this once and I and Appos, I'll prove it with my actions. All right, Mei Gongzi nodded. Azura opened the window, looking at the sky. Their sacrificial ceremony is at the moment the sun sets, right? The time of the ceremony for the same clan Wuden and Appos change easily. As the sun begins to set, we will begin. Azura took a deep breath and said. The bright sky gradually darkened as the sun slowly set in the west, the remnants of the sun blood red. It was as if it echoed the blood sacrifice that was about to begin. Azura and Mei Gongzi were both silent. They knew they couldn't and Appos stop the blood sacrifice without exposing themselves, which would ruin their plan. All they could do was to avenge their kin. Azura clenched his fists subconsciously, involuntarily thinking back to that day when Wang Yanfeng had blocked his view, sparing him from witnessing the most brutal moment. It was on that day that his second goal in this world was set. Let and Appos go, Azura whispered. In the next instant, he had already passed through the window, his figure flickering and vanishing into thin air. Mei Gongzi watched his departing figure for a moment. Her body shimmered with silver light, and then she too disappeared without a trace. The ancestral home of the Wind Wolf clan was even larger than the Titan Bears. After all, this was the heart of the Wind Wolf clan. Azura climbed up to the rooftop of the front yard from the side. From the backyard, regular roars and howls of wolves could be heard. Without a doubt, the sacrifice had already begun. Observing through the discerning eye of heaven, he could see a faint blood glow emanating from the backyard. Azura and Appos' figure flickered as he used leopard flash to move inward. As it was an important day for the ceremony, the entire ancestral home of the Wind Wolf clan was heavily guarded, with sentries every few steps. However, a closer look would reveal that almost none of the sentry wind wolves had a cultivation higher than the 5th order. The higher order wind wolves were likely in the backyard, attending the grand sacrificial ceremony, the most important ritual of the Wind Wolf clan each year. The layout of the Wind Wolf clan and Appos' ancestral home was by now deeply imprinted in Tang San and Appo's mind. Using leopard flash and whatever hideouts he could find, he stealthily approached the central courtyard and soon arrived at the kitchen area. He quietly lifted a tile above the kitchen and looked down. Inside were all members of the pig demon vassal clan, all busy with work, and not a human vassal in sight. The aroma of meat mixed with steam wafted upwards. The kitchen was large, with at least 50 pig demons hard at work preparing food for the celebration that was to come after the sacrifice. Using the discerning eye of heaven, Tang San and Appo's vision pierced through the steam, scanning the inside of the kitchen. Quickly, his gaze locked onto rows of large vats on the west side. The elemental fluctuations emanating from these vats indicated they contained not water but wine. In addition to the water element, these wine vats also emanated vague fire element fluctuation, a very distinct characteristic. Outside the kitchen, 2 fourth-order wind wolves stood guard. Naturally, Tang San had no intention of entering through the main door. Instead, he carefully lifted more tiles. The steam from the large pots of meat cooking inside the kitchen obscured him from view, and as it was already evening, the pig demons below noticed nothing. Tang San slipped in, silently landed on the beams, and used his controlling crane capturing dragon to move along the beams without risking a slip-up. He crawled along the beams toward the west side, near the wine vats. The pig demons below were all busy and sweating profusely. For them, failing to prepare the food today meant becoming the food tomorrow, so they did not dare to slack off. Activating leopard flash, Tang San descended, coiled up in a corner, and remained motionless. Time passed in the wait. The sky outside gradually came to complete darkness. Suddenly, the kitchen door was flung open. The celebration begins. Bring out the wine and meat, a wolf demon shouted from the doorway. All right. The leading pig demon in the kitchen quickly responded. They didn't and Appo's know that while all the pig demons and Appo's attention was drawn to the doorway, a figure was rapidly flickering in front of the wine vats on the west side. Tang San swiftly poured the pre-prepared packets of medicine into the wine vats. The vats were only covered with simple lids, which he could manipulate easily with leopard flash and controlling crane. He added the medicine to dozens of vats in just a few seconds. With one final leopard flash, Tang San passed directly through the roof tiles, landing on the kitchen roof. The continuous high-intensity use of leopard flash left him slightly breathless, but his objective had been achieved. Carefully restoring the tiles to their original place, Tang San lay prone on the kitchen roof, his gaze sweeping toward the backyard of the ancestral home. Intense fluctuations of vital energy were evident on that side, where large tables had been set up for the strong leaders of the wind wolves. Tang San silently concealed his aura, making not the slightest sound. He continued to wait. The pig demons were busily carrying out pots of meat and sending them to the backyard, followed by jars of strong liquor. Having lived in the Wind Wolf clan and Appo's small town, Tang San was well aware of how fond these demons were of drinking. Thus, today in Appo's plan came naturally. The party became noticeably noisier. They were celebrating the most important day of the year, after all. Over 100 tables filled the spacious backyard. Not far off, an altar held 36 corpses from which blood continuously dripped, flowing and soaking into the patterns on the altar and Appo's surface, emitting a thick metallic scent. This scent of blood not only didn't disturb the party, but it even made the eyes of the wind wolves shine with a bloodthirsty light, almost as if they couldn't and Appo's wait to tear into those corpses. The tall and burly wind wolf king sat at the main table, which could accommodate 30. He had a humanoid body and a massive wolf head. From his forehead, clusters of cyan fur extended toward his back, showcasing the purity of his bloodline. Should he break through to the god level, the Wind Wolf King and Appo's cyan fur would gain a hint of gold, indicating that his bloodline had reached a higher tier. However, for a bloodline like the Wind Wolves, breaking through to the god level was not easy. The clan and Appo's Grand Elder was the only one who had reached this step and was now serving at the ancestral court. Sit down, everyone. If you get this excited just from a little blood, what good are you? The Wind Wolf King angrily rebuked his clansmen. They were constantly howling toward the altar where the bodies lay. Only then did the strong members of the Wind Wolf clan quiet down and take their seats. The tables were already laden with steaming meat and only meat. Some wind wolves Kuden and Appos. T wait and started grabbing and tearing into the meat. The Wind Wolf King frowned slightly, deeply dissatisfied with the situation. The Wind Wolves had always been a third-rate clan, due to their fourth-tier bloodline, and since becoming the Wind Wolf King, he had always wanted to lead the clan to greater heights. However, due to their poor foundation, they could not even suppress the Flash Leopard clan. The Wind Wolf King let out a howl, grabbed the cup before him, and downed it in one gloomy gulp. Eat drink. At a table not far from the main one sat a group of Wind Wolf demons who appeared much calmer than the strongmen of the Wind Wolf clan. They were on the slimmer side, wore ornate robes unlike the attire of ordinary Wind Wolf demons, and held staves. These were the priests of the clan. The wolf demons were primarily split into two branches, the war wolves and the wolf priests, with the wolf priests holding a higher status. The position of Wind Wolf King was traditionally held by someone from the war wolves branch, while the Grand Elder was chosen from the Wind Wolf priests. This arrangement was not just within the Wind Wolf clan, but almost universal among the wolf demons. The current Wind Wolf King was naturally also a war wolf, just like his predecessors. However, he was one of the few with exceptionally high spiritual intelligence within the war wolves, which was what had allowed him to cultivate to the peak of the Ninth Order. Unfortunately, he was well aware that breaking through to the god level was extremely difficult, possible only with unique opportunities, such as obtaining the blood of the Golden Wolf King. Of course, this was easier said than done. After that major battle with the Flash Leopard clan a while back, the upper echelons of the wolf clans reprimanded him. Were it not for the support of the high nobility of Kali City, his position as the Wind Wolf King would have been unstable. Despite harboring resentment toward the Flash Leopard lineage, he dared not take further action, which was one of the sources of his ongoing displeasure. At this moment, seeing the Wind Wolf King commence, the wolf demons at each table began to feast with gusto. The aroma of meat and wine and the shouts of the wolf demons spread throughout the backyard. The wolf demons who could sit at the main table were all at least at the 8th order, with a few even at the 9th order. "Big brother, when will we take on those bastards from the Flash Leopard clan again?" asked a particularly burly wind wolf sitting next to the Wind Wolf King, downing a big gulp of wine. The Wind Wolf King also took a swig and replied, "Take on what now? The clan is already very dissatisfied with us. We can only endure for now." Just then, a voice came from behind the Wind Wolf King, "If we can and oppose act openly, we can do it in secret, just like they ambushed our village. If they can slander us for hunting Flash Leopard cubs, why can and oppose we frame them with some charges?" The Wind Wolf King turned around. Standing behind him was a Wind Wolf priest. If Tang San could see this scene, he would have immediately recognized this priest. The Wind Wolf King and Appos' eyes flashed fiercely, and he waved his hand. "Your hatred has clouded your judgment. What day is today? We and Appos' LL talk about this later." A hint of resentment flashed in the priest and Appos' eyes. She opened her mouth and said softly, "Wasn't and Appos' that your son?" The Wind Wolf King and Appos' eyes instantly turned red, and he suddenly stood up, turned around, and kicked the Wind Wolf priest to the ground. "Shut your mouth, piss off. Calm your anger, Wolf King. How can you act on the day of the great sacrifice?" At the table of the Wind Wolf priests, the oldest among them raised his staff, and an invisible authority radiated from him, even seemingly blending with the bloody scent from the distant altar. Only then did the Wind Wolf King restrain himself, sit back down, and fiercely down a large cup of wine. The kicked Wind Wolf priest got up, wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth, and walked back to her table to sit quietly, showing no interest in the meat and wine. This incident did not dampen the spirits of the Wind Wolf demons. Drinking heartily and eating large chunks of meat was an important tradition among most demon races, especially with the scent of blood from the altar. That was when their spirits were at their highest. The sky had darkened entirely, yet the backyard was illuminated by the light of wind spirit stones, revealing everything in detail. Large wind spirit stones were gathered and activated by a crude array to release the wind element within, forming a green light. This made the backyard seem somewhat eerie, but with the rich wind element that the Wind Wolf clan loved most, they were very comfortable. After 3 rounds of drinking, Many wind wolf demons were somewhat drunk but still reluctant to put down their cups. For most races, alcohol was a luxury, expensive, and not always available. The wine at the annual sacrifice ceremony was naturally much better than the inferior wine they usually had, so it was unsurprising that many were more than eager to indulge. Gradually, some of the members of the Wind Wolf clan were sprawled over the tables, snoring away. The Wind Wolf King drank a great deal, and under the influence of alcohol, his inner turmoil was somewhat alleviated. However, the feeling of dizziness surged as well. Drinking was for the pursuit of the sensation of drunkenness, so on regular days, they never used their bloodline power to counteract the effects of alcohol. Otherwise, what would be the point of drinking? The Wind Wolf King stood up, intending to summon a pig demon to bring him more wine, when suddenly he swayed. A sudden bout of dizziness struck him, causing him to plop back into his seat. He shook his massive wolf head forcefully, a flash of confusion in his eyes immediately replaced by alertness. Given his constitution, even if he got drunk, it shouldn't and oppose, TB to the extent that he couldn't and oppose, control his own body. Something's off. He immediately activated the bloodline power within his body, trying to expel the alcohol, and shouted something in oppose. Wrong. There and oppose a problem. The surrounding wolf demons who had not yet succumbed to drunkenness instinctively looked in his direction. Relatively speaking, the Wind Wolf priests were more restrained in their drinking, and they were still fine. Hearing the Wind Wolf King and Appo's shout, they all stood up however, just as they activated their bloodline power. Attempting to counteract the alcohol, an even more intense bout of dizziness instantly overwhelmed them. The Wind Wolf King collapsed onto the table. Those who stood up trying to dispel the alcohol, whether warriors or priests, displayed shock on their faces and, amidst a spinning world, fell to the ground one after another. For a time snoring filled the air, and the entire backyard of the Wind Wolf clan and Appo's ancestral home was enveloped by a strange atmosphere. The only one left standing was the Wind Wolf priest who had been kicked down by the Wind Wolf King before, as she was the only one completely sober. Just then, a figure silently landed behind her and a firm palm struck her in the back. With a thud, the Wind Wolf priest stumbled forward, screamed in pain. She swiftly turned around, only to see a human man shrouded in black, his face hidden behind a metallic mask. Who are you? Azura looked at her silently, as if transported back to years past. His gaze then shifted to the distant altar adorned with corpses, and his eyes filled with anger and loathing. He yearned to save those innocent humans but lacked the strength to do so. Revealing himself during the ritual would have only led to an onslaught by the Wind Wolf clan and Appo's numerous members. And now, the demon who had once ordered the killing of his mother in this life stood before him. Despite his steadfast resolve, he found it hard to control his emotions at this moment. His right hand rose and a wind blade formed in his palm, shaping into a clawed hand and slowly reaching toward the Wind Wolf priest. No, the Wind Wolf priest roared in anger, but to her horror, she found herself completely immobilized. Even her voice froze. At that moment, a strange energy fluctuation appeared from the distant altar, bursting forth with a formidable will. But Azura too lifted his head. His eyes were white, with a hint of golden light flickering within. The will that had just risen from the altar immediately shrank back and dissipated, as if it had encountered something terrifying. The Cyan Claw was already gripping the Wind Wolf priest and Appo's neck. The sharp, condensed wind blade pierced her skin bit by bit, allowing blood to flow freely. Azura swung his hand again and another wind blade flew out, also shaped like a claw. It slowly landed on the priest's chest, ripping it open and extracting her heart. The powerful life force of the demon race meant that the Wind Wolf priest did not die immediately. Instead, she looked at the man before him, filled with terror. A silver figure floated down from afar at that moment, arriving just in time to witness this bloody scene. When he sensed her approach, the wind blade claws holding the Wind Wolf priest instantly dissipated, causing the body and heart to fall together simultaneously. With his head bowed, Azura silently mourned the souls that had once perished. "What are you doing?" Mei Gongzi demanded in a low voice. It was still sober and needed to be eliminated. "I and Appo's am making sure there are no witnesses," Azura said lightly. Mei Gongzi could clearly feel something off about his emotions. However, looking at the Wind Wolf clan members who had all passed out in the backyard, her shock was too great to think of anything else. He had poisoned all the Wind Wolf clan and Appo's strongest members, meaning no one would know even if they killed everyone here. The Wind Wolf guards in the front yard had also been drinking and had all passed out. Azura turned to her and said, "Go ahead," pointing at the Wind Wolf King who lay on the table. The fingers of Mei Gongzi and Appo's right hand turned into claws, tearing through the Wind Wolf King and Appo's spine. The Wind Wolf King and Appo's body convulsed violently, then turned still. With his spine severed and completely paralyzed, the Wind Wolf King could do nothing to prevent her claws from tearing apart his throat. Mei Gongzi and Appo's gaze swept over to the other Wind Wolf clan and Appo's strong members. Just as she was about to continue, Azura grabbed her shoulder. "Let and Appo's go. The fewer traces we leave, the less likely we are to be discovered." Mei Gongzi looked towards the altar, lips pressed tightly together. "Those were humans, all humans. I want to remove them from the altar." Mei Gongzi and Appo's voice trembled slightly. "No." Azura shook his head. "That would reveal our identity as humans." "No buts. Once it and Appo's revealed that humans took action, do you realize how many humans will suffer? There are other ways to give these victims peace. Don't worry about that." Mei Gongzi took a deep breath. Then with a fierce grab, crushed the skull of a sleeping Wind Wolf demon beside her before turning away and swiftly departing. Azura quickly cleaned up the traces, ensuring no remnants of aura were left behind. After giving the altar one final look, he also rapidly left the ancestral home of the Wind Wolf clan. Mei Gongzi returned to the small inn, only to find that Azura had not followed. There was still no sign of him after waiting a full quarter of an hour. Moreover, there was no alarm raised outside. The Wind Wolf clan and Appo's situation would not be discovered anytime soon. Just then there was a knock on the door. "Who is it?" Mei Gongzi stood up, instantly on guard. "Little Mei, it and Appo's me," a pleasant voice came from outside. Mei Gongzi hurriedly went to open the door, and Su Qin walked in. "Where is he?" Mei Gongzi asked softly. "I followed him for a bit, but then I stopped." "I think he noticed me early on," Su Qin said, frowning slightly. "He noticed you?" Mei Gongzi couldn't and Appo's help but express surprise. Su Qin nodded. "I followed behind you and then followed him when you left. This Azura. He and Appo's no simple figure. I didn't and Appo's get too close, but as I approached I vaguely saw wind element fluctuations around him, though it could also be due to the dense wind elements in the backyard of the Wind Wolf ancestral home. However, I saw the ancestral home in Appo's altar releasing the aura of the wolf ancestor, seemingly trying to protect the Wind Wolves. It wasn't an Appo's strong, but it was indeed a divine presence. At that moment I felt a divine power burst from Azura, which scared off the wolf ancestor and Appo's divinity. Though it wasn't an Appo's the true wolf ancestor, just a remnant soul in Appo's consciousness, instincts dawn in Appo's lie. Mei Gongzi was taken aback. "Are you saying Azura is a god?" "I dawn in Appo's no. It and Appo's possible, but it doesn't feel like it, at least from his aura. But the divinity can and Appo's be faked. It and Appo's of a very high level indeed. I think that and Appo's also why he noticed me. I didn't and Appo's follow further. He signaled in my direction when he was leaving, so I stopped for safety. Also the poison he used. I took a bit of the wine, but I couldn't and Appo's detect any poison. Also I saw those wind wolves. They did not react at first, it only began to take effect after some time. And the more they used their bloodline power, the faster the effect. Very powerful. It seems I need to speak with Mayor Zhang. Azura and Appo's identity is not simple. Mom, let and Appo's not ask, Mei Gongzi suddenly said. Su Qin looked at her daughter. Mei Gongzi said, "I promised to trust him after he helped me kill the wolf demons. I intend to keep my word. Also, I can feel his deep hatred for the demon races, especially just now, when he killed that wind wolf priest. His emotions were off. He and Appo's human, and we share a common goal, which I think is enough. Whether or not he and Appo's a god-level being, Having him on our side is important. He wears a mask precisely because he doesn't and Oppos. T want to reveal his identity. Su Qin said, but he knows too much about you. I and Oppos am uncomfortable with that. Mei Gongzi said if he had wanted to harm me, he had plenty of occasions. I think it's fine. Su Qin said, then let an Oppos observe a bit longer. You should leave now before things escalate and return to Kali Academy. That and Oppos the safest place. If this Azura contacts you again, let me know. If there and Oppos a chance, try to communicate with him. Mei Gongzi did not dare to delay. Being too close to the ancestral home of the Wind Wolf clan was not a good idea. The sooner she left, the less likely she was to expose herself. Azura silently disappeared into the Kali Mountains. He did not head straight back to the Redemption Academy, because he sensed someone tracking him. He did not know who it was, but he could feel that this person had come with Mei Gongzi. It was certainly someone from Mei Gongzi and Oppos' side, in other words, a member of the Redemption Society. He slightly revealed a hint of his divine consciousness, then sped up his departure. The aura of the other party quickly vanished, and it appeared that they had given up the pursuit. Despite this, to be cautious, he still chose to enter the Kali Mountains and inform his master. One reason was to discuss with his master how to respond if Mei Gongzi inquired about his identity, and the other was to ask him to return to Redemption Academy to help with Mu Yunyu and Oppos' treatment. Every so often, Azura silently stopped to check if he was being followed. With his ninth order spiritual power, that bit of divine consciousness, and the discerning eye of heaven and Oppos' premonition of danger, even a god-level cultivator would find it difficult to track him without being detected. After checking 10 times over to confirm that no one was following him, he arrived at the pond where the golden wood was planted. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth had become somewhat richer, but given the short amount of time, the golden wood showed little change. Azura transformed back into the normal Tang San, then woke Mayor Zhang from meditation. Why have you come in the middle of the night? Zhang Haoshuan asked, puzzled, looking at him. Tang San did not hide anything from him and recounted how he had secretly helped Mei Gongzi assassinate a mighty demon clan warrior. You reckless dumbass, who allowed you to get involved? Zhang Haoshuan barked upon hearing his story. I was worried she might leave loose ends and end up being discovered, Tang San explained. Zhang Haoshuan frowned deeply. Whether it's you or her, to the organization, to all of humanity, you are the hope for the future. She has her mission and you have yours. Do you understand? Staying alive is the most important thing for you. What if you were exposed? What if you encountered a god? Tang San said, today, I felt that someone secretly protected Mei Gongzi and even followed me for a while. They seemed to be a god-level cultivator. But then they stopped following me. Could it be the other blue class member from our Kali city? Zhang Haoshuan gave him a deep look. You are truly intelligent. But don't let your intelligence lead you astray, understand? The time when you are most likely to fail is when you are most confident. Tang San smiled bitterly. I understand. Master, if that blue-class redeemer asks about me, I'll have to trouble you to cover for me. Zhang Haoshuan fell silent. After a long moment he said, you and Oppos, still young, and I understand why you're unable to resist revealing your abilities. You need to hide them and you need to hide them well. That and Oppos, also my fault. You usually act so maturely. I didn't and Oppos. Expect you to show your abilities before Mei Gongzi. What if she reports your actions to the society? What if the society comes to me for verification? Have you thought about that? Tang San earnestly replied. I believe Mei Gongzi is completely trustworthy. I can guess that her goal is the position of Kali City and Oppos' Lord. Everything she and Oppos' doing now should be in pursuit of this most important mission. I just wanted to help her. Zhang Haoshuan fell silent once again. This time the silence lasted even longer. Tang San did not disturb him, knowing he couldn't and Oppos' rely solely on himself for everything and he indeed needed assistance with these matters. His teammates from Redemption Academy were still too young and lacking in ability. The mayor and Oppos' help was especially crucial for him at this stage. Fine, it is what it is. I will explain it to the society if needed. However, you must promise me that you will always take good care of yourself. I believe you are even more important than Mei Gongzi, understand? Zhang Haoshuan said gravely. Tang San naturally understood his meaning, but it was also natural that to him, Mei Gongzi was the most important. The recent two attacks should draw Kali City and Apos' attention, and I and Apos' advised them to refrain from taking further action for now. You should stay put and focus on improving your cultivation. That and Apos' the most important thing for you. Tang San also mentioned Mu Yunyu and Apos' situation, prompting Zhang Haoshuan to wake Red One from her meditation and inform her that he and Tang San were returning, instructing them to continue guarding this place. Then, the two of them returned to Redemption Academy under the cover of night. Everything seemed to return to normal. Kali Academy was like a peaceful haven where outside influence did not reach, though Tang San did hear some students discussing the assassination of the Wind Wolf King. Mei Gongzi returned to her usual classes, and Sweeper Tang noticed that he was seeing her more often as days passed. Tang San did not know how Zhang Haoshuan explained things to the other Redemption Society members, but everything seemed to stabilize afterward. That was until a week later. While Tang San was sweeping the square before the main teaching building, he suddenly saw Old Mao hurrying toward him. From a distance, Old Mao gestured to him. Tang San quickly ran over. Old Mao, what in Apos is wrong? Don and Apos tea worry. Quick, go back to the town. The mayor sent someone with a message saying there and Apos' an urgent matter for you, Old Mao said, somewhat out of breath. An urgent matter? Tang San and Apos' heart tightened, and without delay, he bid farewell to Old Mao, left Kali Academy, and headed straight for Academy Town. Was there some kind of incident? Could it be that the officials of Kali City had discovered Redemption Academy? As soon as he entered the small town of the Academy, he saw Zhang Haoshuan waiting there with an anxious expression. Zhang Haoshuan and Apos' words immediately calmed him down. Follow me quickly. Dubai is about to make a breakthrough, but it seems there are some problems. Problems? Is Dubai breaking through to the Fifth Order? Tang San didn't and Apos' ask any questions and immediately followed Zhang Haoshuan back to Redemption Academy. As he approached the academy, Tang San could distinctly feel a slight change in the spiritual power surrounding his forehead, as if something was pulling at him. Zhang Haoshuan instinctively turned his head to look at Tang San. Tang San glanced back at him, then gently nodded his head. Zhang Haoshuan immediately said, in that case it and Apos' useless for all of us to be here. We are just getting anxious together. Let and Apos' go outside. Having Siru alone to help him will be enough. If there and Apos' any news, let Tang San pass it on. We can also discuss our strategy. Guanlong Jiang looked at Tang San with some confusion, but he was already being pulled out by Zhang Haoshuan. Mu Wenqing and Mu Yunyu quickly followed suit. Mu Yunyu and Apos' complexion was rosy. Not only had her body significantly recovered, but she had finally broken through to the Eighth Order, and her aura had significantly increased. Watching them leave, Tang San came to Dubai and Apos' side, silently sensing his changes. He himself possessed the discerning eye of heaven, which made him extremely sensitive to the perception of fate, elements, and spirit. Dubai and Apos' bloodline energy was constantly surging within him. His bloodline was in turmoil and it seemed to be undergoing bizarre changes. These changes seemed to result in the conversion of bloodline power into spiritual power, yet his sea of consciousness was already at capacity. The surplus spiritual power thus leaked out, clashing with the spiritual power born within his bloodline, causing Dubai immense pain. Realizing this, Tang San vaguely understood something. Teacher C, please stop for a moment, Tang San said softly. Siru opened his eyes wide and looked at Tang San in confusion. Tang San spoke softly, Teacher Siru, have you noticed that Dubai and Apos' spiritual power seems to be of two kinds? Two kinds? Siru exclaimed in surprise. How can a person have two kinds of spiritual power? It and Apos' merely divided into two parts, that and Apos' all. He trailed off suddenly, his eyes revealing a trace of astonishment. He stimulated his own divine consciousness to feel Dubai's spiritual power fluctuations, and to his surprise, he discovered that the spiritual power generated from Dubai and Apos' bloodline and the spiritual power in his sea of consciousness actually differed. The liquid spiritual power within the sea of consciousness was stable and vast, whereas the spiritual power born from his bloodline carried a somewhat ethereal and elusive feeling. Seems to be a bit different, Siru said in surprise. He had been stabilizing Dubai and Apos' physical condition, calming his raging bloodline, and controlling the spiritual power born from the bloodline to prevent them from having too strong an impact on Dubai and Apos' sea of consciousness, allowing them only gradual contact with the sea of consciousness. What should we do? His celestial fox transformation is too unique, so there are no precedents to follow. This young man is just too damn hasty, and after consuming the purple sunfruit, his spiritual power increased too quickly, causing the bloodline power in his body to surge as well. Tang San suggested, why not try to let them communicate if they're trying to? I think letting them merge might be actually what he needs to do to break through. It will put a lot of pressure on his sea of consciousness, though. Instead of protecting his body, you might try to protect his sea of consciousness and make sure it doesn't collapse because of all that spiritual power. The two types of spiritual power look like they're trying to merge by themselves anyway. Siru and Apos' method was flawed from the start. He should have been stabilizing not Dubai and Apos' body but his sea of consciousness. Tang San explained this in a way he hoped would make sense to the teacher without making himself look ridiculous. Zhang Haoshuan had also returned from outside, just in time to hear Tang San and Apos' words. I think we can give it a try. The effect of the celestial fox transformation is, after all, on the spiritual level. Evolution should also occur on the spiritual level. Siru, you use your divine consciousness to protect his sea of consciousness, and I and Apos' LL make sure his body stays in one piece. We and Apos' LL respond promptly to any changes. Okay, Siru decided on the spot. Dubai and Apos' condition was not good at all, and his state of consciousness was precarious. Immediately, Zhang Haoshuan sat down in front of Dubai, placing his right hand over his heart, silently sensing the changes in his body. Meanwhile, Siru and Apos' eyes flickered with a faint golden light as he released the restriction on the spiritual energy born from the bloodline. Instead, he used his divine consciousness to protect Dubai and Apos' sea of consciousness. When he let go, a mighty surge of spiritual waves instantly burst forth from Dubai and Apos' body, creating a storm of consciousness that seemed to sweep the entire room. Even Tang San was left in a daze by the shock. A liquid-like white light flowed out from Dubai and Apos' eyes, causing him to let out a pain-filled roar. Tang San now understood why Siru had chosen to use his power to stabilize Dubai and Apos' body. The transformation was indeed too great, and the priority was first to suppress his current state. It had been the right call at that time. Using the discerning eye of heaven, Tang San closely observed Dubai, feeling his transformation. If Dubai and Apos' celestial fox vision could break through to the fifth order, then Tang San would also have the possibility of breaking through, thus completing the most crucial step before achieving a total cultivation breakthrough to the seventh order. Therefore, Dubai and Apos' transformation was likely a precursor to the changes Tang San himself would have to endure. Tang San could feel that after Siru released the seal, the long-suppressed spiritual energy in Dubai and Apos' bloodline instantly surged upward, fiercely storming into the sea of consciousness and clashing with Dubai and Apos' original liquid spiritual power. The two powers repelled each other and merged at the same time, hence the overflow. The white light flashed and disappeared. Without hesitation, Tang San maximized the effect of the celestial fox vision, bestowing a stroke of luck upon Dubai. Instantly, the two types of spiritual forces circulating within Dubai and Apos' mind became smoother. Their collisions decreased and the speed of their integration increased. This caused Dubai and Apos' body to tremble even more violently, but the white liquid energy flowing from his eyes diminished. A different faint white light began to seep from the corners of his eyes, not dispersing far but settling around his body before slowly merging into his skin, turning it snow white. At the same time, an indistinct white silhouette appeared above his head. It resembled a white fox, its profound eyes seemingly endless in depth, with deep blue halos flickering within. Behind it, 9 massive white tails gently floated. Among them, one tail was solid, and the second was also beginning to solidify, changing from the base upward. Tang San and Apos' heart shook and he came to a realization. The Celestial Fox clan seemed to be different from other demon clans. For other demon clans, a qualitative change occurred at the 4th order, then at the 7th. However, this change seemed to start from the 5th order for the Celestial Fox clan. Growing a second tail was undoubtedly a considerable transformation, far greater than whatever changes Dubai had experienced while breaking through to the 4th order. Without a doubt, once Dubai completed the breakthrough to the 5th order, his Celestial Fox transformation might undergo major changes, possibly even resolving issues with his bloodline. The real advancement thus finally began. Thanks to the blessing of luck from Tang San and Appo's Celestial Fox vision, the most difficult part had passed. What Tang San, Siru, and Zhang Haoshuan did not know was that the Celestial Fox clan and Appo's realm advancement always required the assistance of companions. Controlling fate was quite literally an act against the heavens. Without the support of companions, a backlash of fate during one and Appo's breakthrough would lead to significant problems, making success nearly impossible. Therefore, without Tang San and Appo's arrival and the fortunate ability to cultivate the Celestial Fox transformation through the mysterious heaven technique, Dubai would have never broken through to the 5th order in his lifetime, or would have perished during the attempt. Dubai and Appo's trembling gradually lessened, and the ethereal silhouette of the Celestial Fox above his head began to solidify. He radiated a soft white light, which enveloped his body like a saintly halo. Both Zhang Haoshuan and Siru, being nearby, could clearly sense the changes in his body, and Kuden and Appo's helped but admire them internally. This transformation was incredibly powerful. Despite their student just barely reaching the 5th order, his presence made these two formidable beings feel a sense of vastness and ethereality. This was the power of the Celestial Fox bloodline, ranked among the top 3 formidable existences of the entire demon continent. Tang San wasn't an Appo's idol either. He sat down cross-legged, silently feeling the Celestial Fox transformation energy dissipating into the air from Dubai, drawing it into his body, quietly elevating the order of his own Celestial Fox transformation. After all, that did nothing to affect Dubai and Appo's breakthrough, and letting this dispersing energy go to waste would be a shame. 2 hours later, Zhang Haoshuan left Dubai and Appo's side as time ticked by. Dubai and Appo's condition had stabilized now, and a full breakthrough was only a matter of time. Another 2 hours passed, and Siru also ended his vigil. Dubai and Appo's sea of consciousness had turned into a completely white ocean. The bloodline and the spiritual power within the sea of consciousness fully communicated, bridging their respective worlds. The two began to transform and merge, initiating the process of evolution. Siru approached Zhang Haoshuan and whispered, "It's going to be a successful breakthrough, isn't it? A 5th order Celestial Fox transformation. That and Appo's incredible." Zhang Haoshuan with a smile responded, "Indeed, indeed. We have gained yet more hope." Siru said, "Once he breaks through, we need to report this, right?" Zhang Haoshuan nodded and replied, "Of course. But let and Appo's wait a bit. You go rest and come back later to take over. We'll go in turns." Siru glanced at Tang San, who was sitting not far away and seemed to have entered a meditative state, sitting there motionless. "Aran and Appo's we going to ask him to leave?" "Let him stay here," Zhang Haoshuan said without hesitation. A gleam flashed in Siru and Appo's eyes. "Old Zhang, have you noticed? Since this youngster Tang San arrived, many changes have occurred in our academy, almost all related to him. Just now, if it weren't and Appo's for his reminder, I would have made a mistake out of sheer concern for Dubai. I keep feeling there in Appo's something off about this kid." Zhang Haoshuan glared at him. "Are you jealous because I have such a good disciple? Don and Appo's even think about it, I won and Appo's let you have him. Who cared? I and Appo's off," Siru said irritably before leaving the room. As he stepped outside and breathed in the fresh air, a hint of doubt flashed in Siru and Appo's eyes. Then he silently shook his head. Perhaps all of this was arranged by the organization, and if Tang San had any secrets, Zhang Haoshuan knew them but simply chose not to tell them. Once more, without his knowledge, old Zhang was taking the blame. Dubai and Appo's breakthrough lasted 3 full days and nights, with Zhang Haoshuan and Siru taking turns guarding him. Meanwhile, Tang San continued cultivating in the room, silently absorbing the bloodline aura radiating from him. By the morning of the 4th day, Dubai was completely engulfed in white light, which formed a giant cocoon around his body. Above him, the second tail of the white fox had fully grown, and was now gently swaying alongside the first. Suddenly, he exhaled deeply, and the light around the cocoon suddenly contracted. Tang San, who was meditating, almost instantly opened his eyes and looked toward the cocoon. He could feel Dubai and Appo's dispersed energy suddenly being drawn back inside. The figure inside the cocoon became clear as well. Dubai had changed. His hair sparkled with a faint silver glimmer, his figure was slimmer, and his appearance more refined and handsome, giving the impression of a youth transitioning into adulthood. His eyes were incredibly clear and transparent, with a hint of silver light flickering within, adding an ethereal quality to his entire being. A hint of confusion flowed from his eyes, and instinctively, his gaze turned toward Tang San, who was not far away. The moment he saw Tang San, his first feeling was one of closeness, a kinship that stemmed from deep within their bloodlines, as if no other presence in the world could replace this intimacy. It was as if Tang San was his true family, the most trustworthy brother he could have. This was caused during the bloodline evolution process. Though neither of them was aware, the one assisting in the breakthrough of a celestial fox would become the most important person in their life, with a bond formed between their bloodlines during the breakthrough. They were connected by fate itself. Tang San could also feel his change, and gradually, he felt a closer bond with Dubai, as if his senior brother could be wholly trusted. The demonic god transformation is truly miraculous. The more powerful the transformation, the more miraculous it is. None of the bloodlines capable of giving birth to a demon emperor are simple. This is only the 5th order celestial fox transformation, yet it feels as if it surpasses the peacock transformation in terms of its miraculous nature. Perhaps Mei Gongzi has not fully mastered the essence of the peacock transformation? Or maybe there might be some essence of it that I am unaware of. Did it happen? Am I at the 5th order now? Dubai pointed at his nose, his face filled with surprise and joy. A faint smile appeared at the corner of Tang San and Appo's mouth as he gently nodded. Congratulations, brother Dubai. It was you who helped me, right? Tang San shook his head. No, it was master and teacher Siru. They've been guarding you all this time. They were the ones who helped you remain stable and break through. Is that so? But I Don and Appo's. Tino, why, I just feel like you did it. This breakthrough was different. It's as if the whole world has changed. Tang San smiled and said, things really have changed, so you should experience the changes in the world as best as you can. Dubai stood up, and so did Tang San. The smile on Dubai and Appo's face instantly became more intense. I and Appo's V broken through. Aha, I and Appo's V broken through. Reached the 5th order. It and Appo's fantastic. Everything is different now. Tang San said. Don and Appo's rushed to be happy. You need to make sure you know what happened with the celestial fox transformation now that you reach the 5th order. See what's improved and enhanced and get to know your new abilities. I also feel that this breakthrough is extraordinary and different from the other times you advanced. Maybe if you study it carefully, you'll find a solution for reaching even higher levels. I understand. It's just that I and Appo's am starving. I just want to eat something now. I feel like I could eat a whole cow. Now that the danger had passed, it was clear that Dubai and Appo's playful nature had returned. Zhang Haoshuan, who had been watching, snorted. Fine, let and Appo's go eat something. Also, Don and Appo's talk about the breakthrough. Keep it a secret for now. Tang San looked at Dubai and Appo's physical changes and said, Riley master, it might not be easy for him to keep this a secret. Dubai and Appo's playful personality was one thing, but the changes in his appearance would be hard to conceal. Through Dubai and Appo's transformation, Tang San suddenly realized that the strength of the demonic god transformation and Appo's bloodline could change one and Appo's appearance to some extent. The more powerful the bloodline, the more significant the change. This appeared to be related to stronger demons becoming more human-like. Reflecting on Mei Gongzi, Tang San suddenly felt rather strange. Upon meeting Mei Gongzi, his initial impression was that she had changed from his previous life, although not on a quintessential level. The essence was the same, but there were differences in appearance and temperament. Yet recently she seemed to become more and more like the person she used to be. Was this related to her breaking through the seventh order? And if so, did that mean that if she were to break through to the god level in the future, she would revert to exactly how she was in the previous life? Thinking of this, his heart couldn't and oppose. T helped but warm up. He remembered the changes he had gone through during the second awakening of his martial soul in his previous life. By the same logic, if he recultivated to godhood, he might revert to his original appearance. Indeed, he felt that he had been more handsome in his past life. Zhang Haoshuan looked at Dubai. You and oppose rewrite? Since it can and oppose. T be hidden let and oppose. S start with confinement. I and oppose. LL personally bring you your meals later. Previously in high spirits, Dubai suddenly felt choked. No, Mayor, please let me off. I can't stay inside for too long, I'll go crazy. Zhang Haoshuan said irritably, at least stay confined until you stop glowing. I and oppose. I'm off to rest now, Tang San. You keep an eye on him. Don and oppose. T go to Kali Academy for the next few days, just watch him. With that, the mayor turned and left. Dubai looked pitifully at Tang San, who spread his hands and said, This is my master and oppose. S order. I can and oppose. T disobey it. Also, you really do need time to get used to being at the fifth order. Oh. Dubai lowered his head, feeling a bit wronged. He looked at his skin, which faintly glowed, not feeling as excited for the moment. How does it feel? Is there any difference from before? Tang San asked curiously. For now, he wouldn't and oppose. T absorbed Dubai and oppose. S bloodline power to aid his own advancement, at least not until Dubai and oppose. S fifth order cultivation stabilized. It feels like I and oppose am completely different. Dubai looked up at him again. I can and oppose. T say what is different, but it feels different. Tang San nodded. You and oppose have grown. You look a bit older, your vitality is much stronger than before, and your spiritual power is so concentrated I can almost touch it. I think your spiritual cultivation is around the peak of the seventh order right now. Think about it, you were around the beginning of the seventh order, and after this breakthrough you're nearly an entire order higher. His spiritual power was naturally much stronger, and having experienced Dubai and Appo's entire breakthrough process, he understands Dubai even better than Dubai himself. During your breakthrough, your bloodline was going through a qualitative transformation, and your bloodline power was converted into spiritual power. That spiritual power first clashed with the spiritual power in your sea of consciousness, then they started to merge. In the end, they fused into one. During this process, it seems that your celestial fox bloodline also went through some changes and actually purified itself. It and Appo's as if your bloodline power was refined by your sea of consciousness. So basically you really went through a complete transformation in both body and spirit. As expected of the celestial fox bloodline, it's truly worthy of being a top-tier bloodline. At least until the seventh order, your cultivation speed probably won and Appo's. T slow down. Ha ha ha, that and Appo's. Great. So I also have the potential to reach the seventh order. Dubai found his excitement again. Tang San said, Don and Appo's. T get too excited just yet. Did you know that a phantom of the celestial fox appeared above your head while you were transforming? I didn't and Appo's. T no. Dubai shook his head. He had been in a complete daze at that time, so he had no idea what his metamorphosis looked like from the outside. Tang San said, the celestial fox has 9 tails, right? Well, during the breakthrough, that celestial fox projection grew a second tail. So I guess you can now be called a 2-tailed celestial fox. I think that with each future advancement you'll probably gain another tail, so if you get to the 12th order, you'll have 9 tails. In other words, I actually suspect that your breakthroughs up to the 4th order were just a kind of preparation, and starting from this 5th order breakthrough, you are really on the correct path of advancement. That means each breakthrough will be more and more difficult, but it also means every breakthrough will transform you completely, so you don't need to wait until the 7th order like ordinary bloodlines. Is that so? Dubai stared at Tang San, feeling that everything he said made quite a bit of sense. Tang San and Appo's analyses were based on his 3 lifetimes of experience. Even strong figures like Zhang Haoshuan and Si Rukuden and Appo's provide a more precise analysis than him. What should I do then? Dubai asked in surprise. Tang San replied, well, for one, keep cultivating your spiritual power properly. Also, use the celestial fox vision as often as you can, so your bloodline and spiritual power can fuse better. That way, you can use your spiritual power to push your bloodline power farther and farther. Once your spiritual power reaches the peak of the 8th order, maybe even the 9th order, you should be able to break through to the 6th order. As for what comes after, well, let's talk about that when you reach the 6th order. Okay. Dubai nodded repeatedly. Tang San said, you can try the celestial fox vision now. See what and Appo's S different from before. Okay. Dubai and Appo's S spirit was lifted, and as he took a deep breath, white light surged all over his body. Concentrating, he activated his bloodline power, and the white light swirling around him converged above his head, reforming the phantom of the celestial fox. This time it didn't have the 9 ethereal tails but only the 2 distinct tails that Dubai had right now. The celestial fox and Appo's deep blue eyes swept over, looking directly toward Tang San. Tang San immediately felt as though his body had become transparent. Under the gaze of the celestial fox, he had nowhere to hide. At that moment, Dubai suddenly screamed and fell to the ground. The celestial fox manifestation above his head disappeared as well. Tang San was startled and quickly dashed to his side. What happened? Dubai was rolling on the ground with his hands covering his eyes, clearly in tremendous pain. Tang San quickly pulled his hands away to look closer, and saw his eyes were full of bloody veins and tears were streaming out. The gentle energy of the mysterious heaven technique flowed into Dubai. With Tang San and Appo's continuous support, Dubai and Appo's pain gradually subsided, but his eyes remained red and swollen, and he was now afraid to open them. What happened? Could this be a side effect of using the celestial fox vision? Tang San. What in Appo's wrong? Tang San asked, puzzled. You blinded my celestial fox vision. Dubai and Appo's voice trembled. Tang San was shocked. What did you see? Golden light that pierces the heavens and the earth. That was you. And you were shining with golden light. Incredible golden aura. A flash of light sparked in Tang San and Appo's eyes. You saw a golden me? Dubai and Appo's emotions gradually stabilized, and after a few moments he nodded. A golden you, piercing the heavens and the earth. Just one glance and I couldn't and Appo's bear it. My eyes hurt so much. Did he see my past life? No, that and Appo's not right. The celestial fox vision is an eye of destiny, but that doesn't mean it can see the past or the future directly. What he saw must have been the destiny from my past life as a god king. This implies that the destiny of my past life exceeds what he can withstand. That must be what happened. The 5th order celestial fox vision can see others and Appo's destinies. He probably was able to do that anyway, but to a far lesser extent. Tang San helped Dubai sit up. Senior brother Dubai, stabilize yourself first. Use your spiritual power to ease the pain in your eyes, and practice the purple demon eyes. Dubai and Appo's chest heaved slightly, his breathing a bit rapid, and he didn't and Appo's speak again. He just waved his hand, and Tang San quickly grabbed it. Tang San, did I see something I shouldn't and Appo's have? Dubai said in a low voice. No, what does that even mean? What you saw must be destiny. Perhaps my destiny is too great for your celestial fox vision to handle, and you were just shocked. Once you and Appo's recovered, you can start by trying to look into the destinies of our classmates. After a moment of silence, Dubai said, but then, why is your destiny so overbearing? It in Appo's terrifying, you know? A golden light that pierces the heavens and the earth, as if it could illuminate the entire world. Tang San smiled wryly. You are the one with the celestial fox vision, and even you Don and Appo's know what in Appo's going on. How should I know? But either way, it in Appo's best if you Don and Appo's tell others about this. I Don and Appo's want to be treated like a test subject. No worries, I and Appo's I'll keep it a secret. I Don and Appo's know why, but after this breakthrough I feel that you and Appo's incredibly important to me, the most important person. Dubai tightly held Tang San and Appo's hand. Extremely important. A twitch appeared at the corner of Tang San and Appo's mouth as he tried to withdraw his hand, but Dubai gripped it tightly. How important exactly? Dubai said, I can and oppose. T explain it well. It and oppose. S just a feeling. Thanks to the celestial fox vision, I could always tell who I should get close to and who I shouldn't. You are the most important to me, the closest person to me, closer than anyone else. I will treat you well and believe you will treat me well. If it were Mei Gongzi saying this, it might be somewhat acceptable, Tang San thought, finally managing to pull his hand free. Hey, Don and Oppos. Tigo. I can and Oppos TC. You have to take care of a blind person, Dubai said, flailing his arms. Tang San dodged to the side, irritably saying, you should focus on your cultivation first and recover your eyesight before we talk. Okay. I and Oppos, I'll listen to you. Dubai sat down cross-legged, cultivating his purple demon eyes as Tang San had instructed to heal his eyes. It took him a whole hour to recover. His eyes were still red and swollen, but he could finally see again. Upon opening his eyes and seeing Tang San, he first said fondly, Tang San, it and Oppos. S so good to see you. Even with Tang San and Oppos, S patience he couldn't and Oppos. T help but burst out, piss off. I didn't and Oppos. T mean anything by it. Brother, this is brotherly affection, Dubai said, scratching his head. You and Oppos. Re so young, why are you thinking of weird things like that? Tang San was left speechless. It doesn't and Oppos. T hurt anymore? Don and Oppos. T look at things you shouldn't and Oppos. T in the future. Anyway, it seems like you have the ability to see fate better now, right? How is it different from the past? Dubai thought momentarily and said, before I could only feel things that would happen right away, but now it seems that I can see someone's future. That is the overall destiny of an individual in the future. Wow, that means your destiny is incredibly promising. So strong. I haven't and Oppos. T seen others yet, but I and Oppos am sure you are the strongest. It almost blinded me. Tang San said, try not to use this ability too often. Knowing too much about others and Oppos, future ISN and Oppos, T good. It will change the way you act around them. Well, I guess it and Oppos. S okay to use it to observe enemies. In any case, you have to be careful because the backlash might just terrify you if you meet someone with a great fate again. Also, fate is not set in stone. The future you see is just one possibility, who knows what might happen. You know so much. Tang San, you and Oppos re great. You and Oppos. V taught me so much, Dubai said, blinking. Tang San replied indifferently, I and Oppos. D appreciate it more if you didn't and Oppos. T speak to me in that tone. The fifth order should have more than just this ability, right? What about enhancing fate? Dubai said with a hint of grievance. Then you have to let me try it out slowly. It and Oppos. S not something I can know right away. And there and Oppos. S no one to teach me. Stop trying for now, you should focus on recovering. I and Oppos. I'll go get you something to eat. Tang San, you and Oppos. Re really kind. You and Oppos re welcome. Tang San muttered to himself, then turned and walked away. He understood that Dubai and Oppos' change in attitude toward him was likely due to the assistance he'd given him during the breakthrough. Over the next 3 days, the white glow on Dubai finally began to recede, and his appearance returned to normal, though he still looked a little older. During these days, he also continued experimenting with using the celestial fox vision, gradually discovering the wonders of the fifth order. One of the most significant changes was that his influence on the fate of the world around him had improved significantly. Using the celestial fox vision, he could make an area of about 10 square meters particularly lucky. Once he used this ability, the effect could last for 24 hours. The area could be expanded, but the larger the area, the weaker the effect. With his current cultivation level, any area over 100 square meters would be unaffected. Of course, it could be imagined that at the sixth order, the ability to enhance the luck of an area would increase even more. This ability was practically the ultimate support ability. Imagine if someone were to cultivate within the range of his celestial fox vision. They would just so happen to stumble upon priceless insights every so often, which was an insane advantage. However, this ability could only be used once daily, meaning it couldn't and Oppos simultaneously make multiple places lucky. If it was used on an individual, the ability wasn't all that different from before. It just increased their luck more than it used to before the breakthrough. In addition to this, there was a change in Dubai himself. He no longer needed to bless himself with luck. Rather, he had acquired a passive ability that attracted fate and Appo's favor. The heavens naturally protected him, ensuring he was always under the auspices of fate. While it wasn't Appo's the kind of good fortune that could turn everything around, Dubai was now essentially in a state of constant good luck, to a far greater extent than before. This meant that this fresh two-tailed celestial fox now had some ability to protect himself, truly worthy of being one of the top 3 bloodlines of the demon continent. This thing is incredible. Tang San was immediately filled with anticipation for his own advancement to the 5th order of the discerning eye of heaven. The effect of this ability on him would naturally be even greater. The discerning eye of heaven would likely have an even greater evolutionary impact than the simple celestial fox vision. 3 days later, the mayor finally allowed Dubai to exit quarantine, and Tang San could return to Kali Academy to resume his role as Sweeper Tang. He wasn't Appo's worried about Mei Gongzi taking any action during these days. Having just killed the Wind Wolf King, there would need to be a period of rest. After all, Kali City was in a state of heightened alert. The authorities were conducting a large-scale search for the killer of the Wind Wolf King and the Titan Bear Chief. Early in the morning, Tang San first greeted Old Mao, then grabbed a broom and headed to the front plaza of the main teaching building to begin his sweeping. Dubai and Appo's 5th order state had stabilized over the past few days, and Tang San planned to begin absorbing his luck in a few days to enhance his own celestial fox vision. He had Dubai apply the luck enhancement to Wu Bingji and Appo's room every day. He also arranged for Chang Zicheng and Guli to cultivate there each night, sharing the luck. Tang San also tried cultivating in the area covered by this luck, and the benefits were clear. His cultivation became smoother, and the coordination between his various bloodlines improved. No wonder the Celestial Fox clan is revered among the demons. Cultivating under the luck charm cast by a powerful Celestial Fox yields twice the result with half the effort. This is no longer just a support ability. It's literally defying the heavens. However, Tang San also faintly sensed that such heaven-defying abilities ought to have inevitable repercussions. Everything had 2 sides. Manipulating luck as the Celestial Fox clan did was bound to result in a backlash. So then, what kind of backlash would there be? The Redemption Society had no information on this. It was clearly a core secret of the Celestial Fox clan. Tang San thought he had to find an opportunity to research this. In any case, since the Celestial Fox clan were able to cultivate to the god level by default, it was likely that any severe backlash would happen during that breakthrough or maybe later. As Tang San swept the floor, pondering the Celestial Fox vision, he was suddenly enveloped by a familiar sensation as he sensed a faint fragrance wafting through the air. "What have you been doing these past few days?" A cold voice followed. Tang San turned around, surprised and delighted to see Mei Gongzi standing right beside him. When he saw her, a warmth rushed into his heart, and joy uncontrollably spilled out. Seeing his surprised expression, Mei Gongzi and Appo's questioning tone softened considerably. "I and Appo's am asking you something." "Oh, a senior brother has been in secluded cultivation these past few days, and I have been looking after him," Tang San said. "Did you ask me for leave?" "You and Appo's disappeared without a trace." Mei Gongzi stood with her hands on her hips, speaking with a hint of playful anger. This rare display of girlish coquettishness from her left Tang San somewhat dazed. Mei Gongzi seemed to realize her attitude was a bit off and quickly lowered her hands, her pretty face blushing with embarrassment. Tang San didn't and Appo's argue but meekly said, "Sister Mei, I was wrong." "Humph. I and Appo's let it slide this time, but in the future you must ask me for leave if you and Appo's not coming to work, got it?" Okay. Tang San quickly agreed. Mei Gongzi glared at him and turned to leave. "Let and Appo's go." Watching her increasingly captivating back, the corners of Tang San and Appo's mouth curled up. Was she worried about me? As Mei Gongzi walked away, she couldn't and Appo's help but question herself. What was happening to her? Why did she fail to control her emotions when she saw this guy? Having not seen Tang San for a few days, she always felt something was missing, as if there was a void inside her. Today she habitually went to the square, and seeing him sweeping there, she couldn't and Appo's help but run over. Tang San and Appo's surprise upon seeing her was deeply imprinted in her mind. For some reason, her own emotions also swelled with joy. She just couldn't and oppose help wanting to look after him. Seeing Mei Gongzi was the highlight of Tang San and Appo's day. He felt as if the broom in his hands was lighter, and naturally, his mood was delightful. Is she worried about me? Even though she doesn't and Appo's remember her past life now, she always feels closeness and familiarity with it. Otherwise, maybe I wouldn't and Appo's have recognized her at first sight. Tang San didn't have the lavish wish for her to recall everything from their past lives. He was satisfied as long as she fell in love with him in this life, and they came together again. As for the stories of their past lives, he could slowly share them with her once they were together. After a day and Appo's work, Tang San felt his mood was uplifted, and upon returning to the Redemption Society, he immediately received good news. Cheng Ziqing and Gu Li had both made breakthroughs. Perhaps it was due to the luck bestowed by Dubai, but they both reached the 6th order on the same day. The Chrono Croc transformation and Golden Rock transformation evolved simultaneously. As for Wu Bingji, even though he was still far from the 8th order, his recent practice in the hidden weapon techniques taught by Tang San had been fruitful, and he was making continuous progress in elemental control. He was now the strongest among the students and was actually getting close to the teachers as well. Most importantly, he was still very young, which meant that he held great potential to reach the god level in the future. Indeed, it was a joyous day. His companions were advancing in ranks, and Tang San could start preparing for his own breakthrough to the 7th order. Perhaps the impact of killing the Wind Wolf King was just too significant in Kali City, but during the following month, Mei Gongzi made no further moves, and Tang San did not see her with her milk tea either. Over the month, through daily interaction with his companions, Tang San had elevated another 2 demonic god transformations to the peak of the 5th order, and he was ready to break through at any moment. However, one crucial preparation was still unfinished. Only upon completing this task could he genuinely start on the path to advancement. His preparatory work was almost done. Early in the morning, Tang San arrived at Kali Academy. He picked up a broom, but instead of hurrying to clean the square, he ran to the path that people had to use to get to the main teaching building and waited quietly. Having spent so much time at Kali Academy, Tang San was very familiar with everything here, like the path he was guarding now, which was the route Mei Gongzi took to school. Streams of demon students passed, heading to the main teaching building for classes. And finally, Tang San saw the person he had been waiting for. From a distance, he saw Mei Gongzi walking alone. Perhaps because of that incident, Tang San had not seen Mei Gongzi with the Beauty and the Beast team members for a long time. The Golden Lion Dog could be seen occasionally, but not by Mei Gongzi and Appo's side, which made him feel a little smug. Tang San immediately picked up his broom and pretended to sweep the floor, approaching Mei Gongzi. As soon as he appeared, Mei Gongzi saw him and couldn't and Appo's help but look puzzled. She knew Tang San and Appo's usual work area, but it did not include this area. Tang San approached her as if nothing out of the ordinary had happened. As they were about to pass each other, he flicked his wrist, sending a small paper ball flying toward Mei Gongzi. Mei Gongzi instinctively caught it, and before she could say anything, Tang San had already brushed past her and walked away. Mei Gongzi was stunned but quickly pocketed the paper ball and continued toward the teaching building. This morning in Appo's lesson was theoretical. Entering the classroom, Mei Gongzi sat down at her desk. By then, many demon race students had already arrived, but since the class hadn't Appo's started yet, the classroom was somewhat noisy. Mei Gongzi looked around, glanced at her classmates to see if anyone was watching her, and then quietly took out and unfolded the paper ball in her palm. The paper ball had a line written, "Tonight at the usual spot." The usual spot? The small inn? Mei Gongzi was taken aback. What did this guy want to meet her for? She flicked her wrist, and with a surge of spatial power in her palm, she turned the note into powder and readied herself for the class. The day passed quickly. By evening, when Mei Gongzi walked out of the teaching building, that familiar figure was no longer in front of the usual plaza. She first returned to her dormitory to change her clothes before leaving the academy and heading toward Kali Square. The turmoil from the last time they killed the Wind Wolf King had finally passed. However, Cali City had recently been conducting various searches, enforcing a strict identity registration system for outsiders, and there were often random checks on the streets. The entire city was in a state of tension. Mei Gongzi came to the small inn, and upon arriving, she saw Tang San waiting at the entrance, sitting on the curb next to the inn. Seeing her, Tang San smiled and sprung toward Mei Gongzi. "Sister Mei, you're here. Let and Appos talk inside." Mei Gongzi led the way into the inn. Tang San followed behind her. Second date? Today Mei Gongzi wore simple clothes, all in light blue. Yet in Tang San's eyes, her simplicity held a hint of transcendence. Mei Gongzi led him upstairs, closed the door, and activated the soundproofing array. "What did you want to see me for?" Mei Gongzi asked, puzzled. Tang San said, "Sister Mei, I have a question about cultivation." "A question about cultivation? Let and Appos hear it," Mei Gongzi replied. Tang San said, "As you know, my spiritual power has increased quite rapidly, and now that I and Appos am already at the 9th order, there and Appos not much room for further improvement. Recently I and Appos been focusing on training my bloodline power. I can feel that my bloodline power is at the peak of the 6th order. I and Appos am preparing to break through to the 7th order, but I seem unable to find the threshold for the breakthrough. The mayor, who is teaching me normally, hasn't been around much lately, so I was hoping you could give me some guidance." Mayor Zhang Haoshuan has indeed been away frequently. This was only normal considering that he was spending plenty of time guarding the Golden Wood, in reality cultivating next to it, and studying the spirit summoning array. Mei Gongzi said, "For most cultivators, the 7th order is a significant threshold. It marks the important division between the intermediate and the advanced levels. As for how important it is, that varies among bloodlines. Usually, for those in the 3rd tier and below, the 4th and 7th orders are crucial. As for higher tier bloodlines, every order means a major change. Your Wind Wolf bloodline is a pretty ordinary bloodline. It's normally around the 4th tier, but with diligent cultivation it might be possible to advance it to the 3rd tier. So the 7th order is very significant for you. Breaking through the 7th order means you can break through to the 9th order as long as you keep cultivating. The problem is that even demons often find themselves stuck right before the 7th order, let alone humans. The biggest problem is that the power of our bloodline is not concentrated enough. After all, our demonic bloodline only accounts for half of our heritage, and inheriting a rich bloodline is really rare. Another reason is that there's not enough stimulation to the bloodline. To overcome the threshold of the 7th order, you must accumulate power and achieve some kind of enlightenment, in such a way that your bloodline power boils to the limit. It and Appos best to break through in one go. How strong is your body? Can it withstand a burst of bloodline power? Tang San said, "I don't and Appos know either. I and Appos been diligently cultivating. Should be okay, I guess. Maybe you could check for me?" Mei Gongzi glanced at him, but when she looked into Tang San and Appos' clear eyes, she saw nothing but a serene pond, with not a shred of ill intent. Well, he was only 11 after all. He was even younger than her. What could he possibly be intending? "All right, come sit down." Mei Gongzi pointed to a chair beside her. Tang San quickly walked over to her. Once close, he could immediately smell the faint, refreshing fragrance emanating from Mei Gongzi, soothing his heart. Tang San sat down in front of her. At this moment, the two were so close that they could hear each other in Appos' breathing. "Turn around back toward me." Mei Gongzi couldn't and Appos' help but give his head a little smack. "Ouch, that hurts." Tang San quickly turned around. Seeing him turn around, Mei Gongzi secretly stuck out her tongue, not knowing why but feeling quite satisfied after hitting him. Why did she suddenly feel like teasing him? Mei Gongzi steadied her spirit. "Concentrate and relax. Let me check your bloodline." "All right." Tang San settled into the chair, slightly relaxing. Mei Gongzi raised her hands, placing them on his back. Slowly, she gathered her bloodline energy to probe into Tang San and Appos' body. As soon as her bloodline energy entered Tang San and Appos' body, she immediately felt a rich energy fluctuation, calm and stable, continuous and unending. Yet there was no resistance to her energy. He was completely open, allowing her to probe within. This could only be done if there was absolute trust. In other words, he had no guard against her. This discovery couldn't and Appo's T help but make Mei Gongzi and Appo's lips curve up slightly. She quickly felt that Tang San and Appo's energy flowed smoothly, his bloodline was rich, and his physical condition was excellent. A moment later, however, she was surprised to find that, perhaps due to the constantly flowing energy inside Tang San and Appo's body, her bloodline power was quickly consumed. She subconsciously gathered more of her bloodline power to probe. Since it was just a test, she dared not use too much spatial power to avoid harming Tang San. Sister Mei, I and Appo's cycle my energy according to my cultivation method. Can you help me take a look overall? Tang San suddenly spoke. Okay. Mei Gongzi was filled with curiosity at this moment because through her probing, she found that the energy within Tang San was continuously flowing. Yet it seemed not to be the energy of the Wind Wolf bloodline, but a very calm energy, seemingly without any bloodline properties. When people with demon bloodlines underwent the demonic god transformation, the power and aura of their bloodlines always had distinct characteristics. Yet the energy within Tang San seemed to have no specific characteristics. It was a different form of energy from what Mei Gongzi knew, and she was curious about how this energy operated. Immediately, she controlled her bloodline power with her spiritual power, slowly starting to circulate it following the flow of energy within Tang San and Appo's body. The cultivation of bloodline power was centered around the heart, which pumped vast amounts of energy throughout the body. During combat, the heartbeat significantly accelerated, thereby enhancing the bloodline and Appo's power. However, the circulation of energy within Tang San and Appo's body was not centered around the heart, but followed a cyclical route through his meridians, seemingly absorbing energy from the outside world for enhancement. His meridians were nearly full of energy, and he appeared to have hit the peak of the sixth order. His energy was very rich and concentrated, and it showed signs of compression. By all accounts, a breakthrough should naturally follow. Unknowingly, Mei Gongzi and Appo's bloodline power followed the energy circulation within Tang San and Appo's body for an entire cycle. She felt weakness several times and had to mobilize her bloodline power repeatedly. Thankfully, after reaching the seventh order, her bloodline power recovered exceptionally quickly, with the top-tier peacock demon bloodline allowing her to draw upon spatial power to replenish herself constantly. After completing an entire cycle, Mei Gongzi fell into deep thought, but she continued her exploration. The route of energy circulation in Tang San was much more complex than the typical demonic god transformation. It seemed to be a specialized cultivation technique. Was it taught to him by Zhang Haoshuan? But there and Appo's no mention of such a cultivation method within the organization, and this method doesn't in Appo's seem to mobilize bloodline power purely, so what is this energy inside him? After pondering for a moment, she withdrew her hands. At that moment, her body shook slightly, and she was surprised to find that her bloodline power had been consumed by half. However, at her level, even without active cultivation, her bloodline power would automatically absorb space elemental energy from the air to recover. Tang San, what kind of technique are you cultivating? Who taught you? Mei Gongzi asked. Tang San turned around, his face the very picture of innocence. I don't and Appo's know what technique it is. I found a book when I was young, and after I learned to read, I started practicing the method described in it. And it turned out. Did you practice this technique first and then awaken the Wind Wolf transformation? Mei Gongzi asked. Tang San nodded. You could say that. Your technique is quite strange and so is the energy it produces. Does this energy support you when you use the Wind Wolf transformation? Mei Gongzi continued. He nodded again. Yes, that and Appo's how it works. Mei Gongzi frowned slightly and said, from what I can sense about your body, you and Appo's in excellent condition. Your spiritual power is vigorous, and your meridians are resilient. For your age, this is pretty much miraculous. Supporting a breakthrough to the seventh order should not be a problem. You Don and Appo's need to rush. As long as you continue cultivating, the energy will naturally break through when it overflows. There and Appo's no way you'll fail. This ISN and Appo's just the Wind Wolf transformation. It and Appo's unexpected. Does Mayor Zhang know about this cultivation method you and Appo's Repracticing? Tang San said he knows. But for some reason no one else can practice this technique. My teacher has had others try, but it didn't and oppose. Work. Right now only I can do it. Mei Gongzi was taken aback. That and oppose is strange. If you don and oppose, mind tell me how to practice it? Of course. Tang San said without hesitation. He felt no need to keep the secret from Mei Gongzi. After all, the mysterious heaven technique required the practitioner to be a pure human, without any demonic god transformation. Mei Gongzi, who already had 2 powerful demonic god transformations, could not possibly succeed in cultivating it. Immediately, Tang San described the mysterious heaven technique to Mei Gongzi. While speaking, he silently collected from his meridians the portion of the peacock demon bloodline power that Mei Gongzi had used to probe into his body. It was more than enough. This was the top-tier bloodline power. Although the peacock demon's bloodline tier was not exactly as high as the celestial fox's, it was nevertheless a top bloodline, and its overall power was incredible. This was Tang San and Appo's final preparation for the breakthrough to the 7th order. Replacing his flash leopard bloodline with a peacock demon bloodline was a logical decision, and it also compensated for the shortfall of not reaching the peak of the 6th order with the celestial fox imprint. When he broke through to the 7th order, having a top-tier bloodline as the lead would greatly help him. Obviously, he couldn't and oppose reveal this peacock transformation in front of Mei Gongzi, but that was not a problem. Mei Gongzi listened intently as he explained the mysterious heaven technique. Blessed with excellent comprehension and memory from a young age, she quickly grasped its principles through Tang San and Appo's explanation. Yet, upon attempting it herself, she found she couldn't and oppose harness this technique. Cultivating using the mysterious heaven technique involved absorbing the power of the heavens and the earth into one and Appo's body and converting it into one's own, gradually increasing it until it achieved a self-perpetuating and self-improving cycle. However, for Mei Gongzi, who possessed the demonic god transformation, the natural energy she absorbed automatically converted into bloodline power, leaving no opportunity to channel it otherwise. This was a key reason why humans with the demonic god transformation ability could not cultivate the mysterious heaven technique. This technique is indeed quite fascinating. Unfortunately, it seems that those who have the demonic god transformation are unable to cultivate it. Well, in any case, it and Appo's uncertain what the future holds, so be cautious in your cultivation. Do you understand? If you feel ready to break through to the 7th order, you can seek guidance from a teacher at the Redemption Society. If they and Appo's unavailable, notify me in advance and I and Appo's accompany you through the breakthrough. But we and Appo's need to find a quiet place, Mei Gongzi advised Tang San. Thank you, Sister Mei, for resolving my doubts today, Tang San said, his face filled with gratitude. Let and Appo's head back, it and Appo's getting late. Mei Gongzi stood up, and Tang San quickly followed suit. His height had almost caught up to Mei Gongzi and Appo's. She glanced at him and saw his clear eyes looking back at her, causing her heartbeat to accelerate slightly. We should part ways here. Be careful on your way back, Don and Appo's. Wander off and head straight to the academy, alright? Mei Gongzi cautioned again. Okay, Sister Mei, Tang San responded. After leaving the inn, Mei Gongzi went her way, and Tang San watched her figure disappear at the end of the street before he quickened his pace and left in another direction. What Mei Gongzi didn't and Appo's know was that Tang San was not only planning to break through soon, but he was feeling a massive urgency. It was much like the feeling of desperately needing to urinate. Absorbing Mei Gongzi and Appo's bloodline power instantly saturated the energy within his body. He desperately used his spiritual power to suppress it, to prevent it from bursting forth. And he couldn't just break through anywhere. Although breaking through to the 7th order wouldn't cause too much of a disturbance for a generic bloodline, if he centered his breakthrough around the peacock demon bloodline, whatever manifestation it produced would almost certainly not be nice and peaceful. He had to find a safe place. Just now, he had been unable to urge Mei Gongzi to leave, so he could only wait for her to take the initiative. Now that she was gone, he dared not delay any longer, rushing toward the direction of the Kali Mountains. The most suitable place for his breakthrough was, of course, near the pieces of golden wood. Mei Gongzi, on the other hand, was not in a hurry. As she leisurely walked toward Kali Academy, she silently recalled the technique Tang San had described. This technique was indeed rather unique. Moreover, he had shared it with her without any reservations. This seemed to be the mark of a great destiny. His rapid increase in spiritual power might also be related to this technique. In the future, she thought it would be worth observing the effects of his technique more closely. If it really proved to be as excellent as she thought, perhaps she could let her descendants try it as well. Descendants? What am I thinking? Mei Gongzi and Appo's pretty face suddenly flushed red. Thankfully, it was night and no one noticed anything. Tang San was now sprinting with all his might. Having reached the less populated periphery of the city, he no longer cared about alerting others. Applying the celestial fox vision and Appo's luck enhancement to himself, he moved forward at breakneck speed. Though occasionally some demons turned their heads as he passed by, he finally managed to rush into the Kali Mountains unimpeded. Upon entering the Kali Mountains, golden light surged behind him as he instantly unleashed the golden rock transformation. Two massive golden wings spread out from his back, flapping rapidly. With the incredible speed of the golden rock, he headed straight for the location of the golden wood. If Cheng Zicheng were to see him now, she would realize that Tang San and Appo's flying speed was even greater than hers. He was nothing more than a golden streak of light flashing low in the mountains, like a meteor chasing the moon. The howling winds brushed against him. Tang San could clearly feel the bloodline within his body rapidly stirring. The 6 demonic god transformations and the recently introduced peacock demon bloodline energy were all restlessly surging, nearly overwhelming the suppression of his energy vortex. Fortunately, his spiritual power far exceeded his cultivation level, allowing him to barely suppress it with the spiritual power governed by divine consciousness. After holding back for so long, it was finally time to break through. The golden rock truly was the fastest of all demons. The powerful golden bloodline brought Tang San to the destination in no time at all. Golden light swirled, Tang San and Appo's wings retracted, and he somersaulted in the air before gracefully landing close to the array. Zhang Haoshuan, who was cultivating next to the spirit summoning array, almost instantly opened his eyes and looked up at him. His bloodline surged, ready to act at any moment. Upon recognizing Tang San, he retracted his aura and frowned. "Why are you in such a hurry?" As soon as he spoke, he immediately sensed something was off with Tang San, whose face was beet red and whose bloodline was restlessly surging throughout his body as if he was drunk. "Master, please protect me," Tang San said as he plopped down next to the spirit summoning array. Their conversation also woke up the meditating Crimson Fox girls, who couldn't and Appo's help but curiously look over at Tang San. After over a month of growth, the pieces of golden wood had fully taken root. Now they could be called golden saplings. Compared to when they were planted, they had grown by at least 5 inches, and a distinct vitality was now overflowing from the spirit summoning array. Although the growth still appeared slow, it was a positive reinforcement cycle. The more vigorous the life energy, the more natural chi the spirit summoning array could attract, thus generating even more life energy. As long as this growth process continued unimpeded, these golden saplings would eventually grow into towering trees. As soon as Tang San settled down, his energy surged out like a storm. A white torrent of energy swept around him, and colorful lights burst forth from within him for a moment. "Step back." Zhang Haoshuan hurried to Tang San and Appo's side, urging the Crimson Fox girls to quickly move away to avoid being harmed by the energy released during Tang San and Appo's breakthrough. He sat down beside Tang San, his gaze intently fixed on this disciple he hadn't Appo's actually taught anything. This was the first time he was actually witnessing Tang San breakthrough, and he wanted to see what kind of changes would occur during the breakthrough of someone whose cultivation method was so special. Tang San and Appo's face showed signs of pain, and his body trembled continuously, but he remained firmly seated, stable as a mountain. In terms of mental fortitude, how could a child like Dubai compare to him? No matter how restless the energy inside his body, he maintained the steadiest mindset. The vortex of the mysterious heaven technique operated slowly yet steadfastly, gradually guiding the 6 bloodline imprints. Then, he gradually released the suppression. His first task was to break through to the mysterious heaven technique in Appos, seventh order, expand the meridians throughout his body, enhance his physical endurance, and utilize some of the life energy from the golden saplings to nourish himself. Only then would he proceed with the breakthroughs of the various bloodline imprints he had. The three most crucial things he had to do in that respect were pushing the Blue-Silver Emperor to the 7th order, pushing the Discerning Eye of Heaven to the 5th order, and creating a Peacock transformation imprint to replace the Leopard Flash, and then stabilizing the Peacock transformation at the 7th order. As for the Wind Tiger transformation reaching the 7th order, that was relatively easy. The Chrono Croc transformation and Golden Rock transformation were stable at the 5th order, and he could push them to the 6th. Future breakthroughs would follow one by one. Over the past month, he had secretly advanced the Golden Rock transformation and Chrono Croc transformation to the peak of the 5th order thanks to his colleagues' breakthroughs. The Discerning Eye of Heaven was also at the peak of the 4th order. It was capable of reaching the 5th, but he had consciously chosen not to allow it. Once that breakthrough occurred, he would inevitably lose control over his spiritual power for a while. The process of enhancing the Discerning Eye of Heaven involved intense collisions and fusions of spiritual power, which he had witnessed with Dubai. How could he suppress his cultivation level once his spiritual power went out of control? Hence, he waited until today to go through a comprehensive breakthrough. The mysterious heaven technique's vortex operated continuously and steadily within him as Tang San gradually suppressed the bloodline imprints inside his body. Meanwhile, the bottleneck began to loosen under the relentless surge of power, and the gateway to the 7th order slowly opened. Sitting beside Tang San, Zhang Haoshuan could distinctly feel the aura within his pupil. Although not as vast in quantity as his own, this energy was circulating endlessly, vibrant and somehow apparently inexhaustible. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth drawn by the spirit summoning array was almost entirely absorbed by Tang San now. The nearby golden saplings also emitted a distinct golden halo, and the life energy that they generated was drawn to Tang San in what seemed like a very natural process. Zhang Haoshuan felt like something had exploded within his consciousness. In front of him, Tang San suddenly radiated bright white light. A dense halo enveloped his body, illuminating everything around him down to the finest detail. This white light rapidly swirled around his body, forming a white vortex. The funnel-shaped vortex spun swiftly, accelerating the spiritual energy in the air toward him. The spirit summoning array hadn't been active for all that long, so the scale on which it operated hadn't grown by much. At this moment, however, the speed of gathering spiritual energy significantly surged, as if Tang San himself had become a massive spirit summoning array. A terrifying stream of energy flowed through the air, as Tang San and Appo's aura began to undergo significant changes. His skeleton emitted soft crackling sounds, and though his entire body was shivering, his back was ever straighter. The fluctuation of his energy intensified, and his skin turned red due to the concentration of energy. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth swarmed into him, continuously pouring into his body, transforming it to become stronger and more resilient. A faint smile appeared on Tang San and Appo's face as he sat there with his hands clasped in front of his chest. He clearly felt his cultivation rising, despite the turmoil within his body. And with the breakthrough to the 7th order of the mysterious heaven technique, it felt as if his entire body was swelling. The state of his body was changing. The energy vortex outside sped up, reflecting the speed of the vortex inside. A speck of light began to coalesce within his dantian. The cultivation in this life differed from his previous one, yet many aspects converged, especially since he continued cultivating the mysterious heaven technique. Although in this life it was not the power of the martial soul but the bloodline power of the demonic god transformation, he still centered his practice around the mysterious heaven technique. Under his control, the vortex sped up even more and the energy within it gradually compressed inward. At the same time, his energy circulated throughout his body, nourishing his flesh, bones, and meridians. To withstand higher levels of the demonic god transformation, it was essential to ensure his body had the capacity to endure the sheer energy. Enhancing his physical strength was crucial, just as important as his capacity to control the bloodline imprints and the abilities they granted him. Just like the 7th order of the demonic god transformation, the 7th order of the mysterious heaven technique also represented a significant threshold. Only upon reaching this realm could the characteristic of endless vitality genuinely be manifested. As the energy continued to compress inward, the spark of light at the center of the vortex shone brighter and brighter. Finally, as the dense energy around it converged into it, that light turned solid. It was a diamond-shaped crystal that was slowly rotating. Initially, it was only the size of a pinhead, but as Tang San absorbed more and more power from the outside, its volume gradually increased. As if finding an outlet, the surging energy within Tang San began to rush into it wildly. In his previous life, Tang San called this the soul core, the core formed by cultivating the mysterious heaven technique. With this core, energy could flow endlessly within him and be ever-renewing. The soul core formed a cycle. It was able to generate energy on its own, but also continuously absorb energy from the surroundings, converting it into life energy and the energy of the mysterious heaven technique, continuously enhancing itself. After breaking through to the seventh order, Tang San would possess greater endurance in combat, and at the same time, his cultivation efforts would be doubly effective. At this moment, the spiritual energy of heaven and earth drawn from the outside world was being absorbed into his dantian at a ridiculous speed, slowly making the newly formed soul core more cohesive and stable. This process was crucial and had to be flawless. It was the foundation for his future breakthrough to the god level. Tang San completed this process with practiced ease. The soul core within his dantian gradually expanded to the size of a thumb before ceasing to grow any larger. Then it slowly became more translucent and at the same time more solid. The energy flow surrounding it also stabilized. Energy continuously merged into it, but at the same time, it also emanated energy that joined the flow. A perfect cycle began to form. This cycle perpetuated itself, and thanks to it, Tang San's cultivation could become autonomous. In other words, the soul core allowed him to cultivate even faster. Inside the dantian around the soul core, several orbs of light had also emerged. His bloodline imprints. Each of these orbs represented a type of demonic god transformation, each a unique and powerful force. This power could merge into his bloodline, becoming his own power as needed, and also represented the abilities that allowed him to blend in with this world. Tang San did not touch these orbs of light for now. The priority was to stabilize the soul core and reinforce his physique, enhancing his body and Appo's capacity to endure. Only then would he enhance each of these bloodline imprints, aligning the advancement of his cultivation with each specific demonic god transformation. Today and Appo's breakthrough could be regarded as the most important one since his arrival in this world. After this evolution, he could be said to have a certain self-protective ability, making it very difficult for someone below the level of a god king to kill him. While absorbing Mei Gongzi and Appo's bloodline power, he had already anticipated that he might be unable to suppress it, since he was already nearing a breakthrough anyway. Sitting beside the golden saplings allowed him to leverage the spirit summoning array to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, while also absorbing the life essence brought by the golden saplings to some extent. At the same time, however, his breakthrough assisted the spirit summoning array in drawing in even more vast energy, reciprocally nourishing the saplings. The soul core gradually transitioned from an initial milky white to diamond-like clarity, and the surrounding energy turned gentle. As it slightly vibrated and fluctuated, the energy flow throughout Tang San's entire body accelerated significantly. A layer of white misty aura emanated from Tang San and Appo's entire body enveloping him. Zhang Haoshuan, who had been attentively observing, could naturally sense the energy bursting within Tang San. It was extremely pure and robust, and it emanated a balanced and peaceful aura. It was much more tranquil and richer than the usual demonic god transformation energy. Once the spiritual energy of heaven and earth was attracted, it naturally merged into it, becoming a part of it. During the enhancement process, it induced changes, seemingly refining Tang San and Appo's body. This is a breakthrough to the seventh order, but it's different from any other seventh order breakthrough I've ever seen. The energy fluctuations are much stronger and denser than normal seventh order bloodline fluctuations. In fact, they're so powerful that they affect everything around him. The golden saplings within the spirit summoning array now had a faint golden halo enveloping them. It was a sign that the life energy within them was so rich that it was overflowing and dissipating in the surroundings. This must be the energy produced using the mysterious heaven technique. What a remarkable and powerful ability! As time passed, Tang San and Appo's aura became increasingly stable, and the energy output of his soul core gradually flowed out and formed a large white cocoon around him. The Crimson Fox girls watched from not too far away. They had little understanding of their nominal master. He was nothing more than a child in their eyes, yet he had drawn the spirit summoning array, and the aura emanating from him at this moment was incredibly powerful. They had been cultivating around the spirit summoning array for a while, influenced by the life essence of the golden saplings. Their bloodline was subtly evolving, and though they had not yet advanced, their spirits were vigorous and their vital energy abundant. Despite the solitude of mountain life, there was at least a sense of stability. Having spent some time together, they could feel that Zhang Haoshuan and Tang San meant no harm, and the fact that they were both human certainly helped that impression. These girls, basically blank slates when it came to knowing the world, gradually feel a sense of belonging toward the two. Tang San and Appo's breakthrough could be described as completely natural, resulting from long-suppressed efforts. In recent days, he had been absorbing the energies of various treasure plants in the academy and Appo's store, bolstering his vital energy and improving his physique. His physique now surpassed those of his peers, which meant that he had overcome the most significant obstacle in advancing his cultivation. At the same time, his spiritual power had been continuously increasing. After reaching the 9th order, interaction with his divine consciousness became much easier, nourishing the divine consciousness and being nourished by it in turn. While the total amount of his spiritual power had not changed much, it had begun a silent transformation. This time it showed signs of starting to solidify. Only recently had the accumulations from Tang San and Appo's previous life begun to truly manifest. He had been able to reproduce some abilities from his past life, and now he had also started to evolve his body toward the level of his previous one. The soul core within his dantian gradually stabilized. His energy vortex operated smoothly, and he absorbed a vast amount of spiritual energy of heaven and earth. And in this remote mountain forest, no one noticed his transformation. As a hint of dawn began to lighten the distant sky, Tang San suddenly took a deep breath. Instantly, the white currents swirling around his body were drawn into his mouth and nose, as if he was a whale drawing in water, and he once more appeared clear within the other's sights. Zhang Haoshuan, who had spent the whole night staring at him, felt nothing but joy and relief. Is this a sign of success? The Crimson Fox girls, who had nodded off by now, were startled awake and instinctively looked at Tang San. They witnessed a remarkable scene. At this moment, the distant sky was lit with the light of dawn, tinged with a faint purple hue. Tang San suddenly opened his eyes, and a deep purple light burst forth from the depths of his gaze. Suddenly, a surge of spiritual power burst forth from Tang San. Even Zhang Haoshuan felt his sea of consciousness was trembling. A 9th order powerhouse like him was experiencing a sense of suppression. This was a clear sign that his spiritual power was being overwhelmed. When did his spiritual power become so strong? As Zhang Haoshuan was gaping in shock, the purple in Tang San and Appo's eyes gradually turned into a gleaming white radiance. Following that, a white stream of energy burst forth from his body, condensing above his head into the form of a white fox. The fox had 9 tails, one of which was solid. Zhang Haoshuan had seen this exact scene play out before. Wasn't an Appo's when Dubai broke through? Unlike Dubai and Appo's breakthrough, however, behind this celestial fox and Appo's head was a ring of colored light, with 9 different colors shimmering faintly. In the deep blue eyes of the celestial fox, there was an additional glint of gold, giving it an aura of wisdom. A different celestial fox transformation? Zhang Haoshuan watched in stunned silence. Then, he felt all the spiritual power bursting forth from Tang San suddenly retract. In the next instant, an invisible spiritual storm erupted from Tang San, and the celestial fox phantom above his head expanded more than twice in size. The eyes of the celestial fox phantom shone brightly, gazing into the sky with pride, staring directly at the rising sun that was slowly emerging in the distance. Within Tang San and Appo's sea of consciousness, his spiritual power began to boil as the celestial fox transformation evolved. The golden sea churned violently, and the imprint of the celestial fox transformation within his dantian rapidly expanded and grew. illuminating the entire Dantian with its light. His energy vortex operated intensely, influenced by the luminous aura of the celestial fox imprint. The surging spiritual power within his bloodline climbed upward, pouring into the sea of consciousness and beginning to merge with the spiritual power there. In Tang San and Appo's case, there was no collision of spiritual forces as there had been with Dubai. This was because a strand of divine consciousness sat at the center of his sea of consciousness. The spiritual power born from stimulating the celestial fox transformation within his bloodline was simply not at the level where it could affect his sea of consciousness. The two began to merge almost immediately, initiating the evolution of the celestial fox imprint. The celestial fox bloodline was one of the highest tier powers in this plane, but completing its breakthrough at that moment was the easiest task for Tang San. With the strengthening of his spiritual power and divine consciousness, that trace of divine consciousness had expanded to more than twice its original size, and it was enough to easily cow the fifth-order celestial fox transformation into submission. Within Tang San and Appo's sea of consciousness, the shadow of the nine-tailed celestial fox flickered. However, with the pressure from the divine consciousness, it did not dare to rear its head. Instead, it meekly submitted to the illumination of the divine consciousness. The sea of consciousness churned and boiled. At the center of this sea, around that point of golden divine consciousness, numerous golden light motes began to flow in, gradually sketching outlines. These lines connected, drawing in more spiritual power, solidifying progressively into a golden diamond-shaped crystal. Today, Tang San was consolidating not just the soul core but also the spirit core. He had not taken this step yet with his spiritual power, not because he couldn't and Appo's but because the right moment had not arrived. Now, with the evolution of his body and the breakthrough of the celestial fox transformation, he could draw upon even greater spiritual power. This allowed him to condense his spirit core in one go, and allow it to become as solid as it could at this stage. The golden diamond-shaped crystal slowly solidified. It radiated soft blue light, which slowly condensed into a blue halo around it. Inside the sea of consciousness, this immense spiritual power converged into the spirit core, causing the sea of consciousness to gradually become more spacious. The spirit core continuously emitted ripples of golden light, like innumerable golden halos. As these golden halos spread out, like ripples on the surface of a lake, Tang San and Appo's sea of consciousness also expanded. Tang San closed his eyes again. The soul core in his dantian and the soul core within his sea of consciousness shone. A golden halo appeared on his forehead, and a white light emerged from his lower abdomen. The golden light flowed downward, along his chest and abdomen, connecting with the dantian. The two linked up, instantly bridging the gap between heaven and earth. Tang San shuddered and his bones cracked. Within just a moment, his body seemed to have grown in size. A powerful aura surged out from within him. With the bridge between heaven and earth established, a second foxtail solidified instantly behind the phantom of the celestial fox above his head, a process completely unlike the gradual growth experienced by Dubai. The celestial fox and Appo's eyes suddenly shone brightly with a deep blue light, and Tang San and Appo's aura instantly dropped. The aura rising mightily like a growing wave vanished in an instant. Or rather, it was concealed. Both Tang San and Dubai had the same celestial fox transformation, but the control exhibited by Tang San was on a completely different level. Tang San didn't need protection from anyone to achieve his breakthrough. At this moment, his discerning eye of heaven officially evolved to the fifth order. Following the evolution of the discerning eye of heaven, a burst of blue light erupted from his dantian the next moment. The Wind Tiger bloodline imprint was right at the peak of the sixth order, and it easily and immediately broke through the barrier and reached the seventh order. Once that was done, Tang San's aura fell for a few moments as he connected with the bridge between heaven and earth. Then a golden silhouette emerged behind him, its wings unfurling in a blaze of gold as if roaring toward the heavens. With a wave of Zhanghaoshuan and Appo's hand, a wall of fire rose, blocking the view of the Crimson Fox girls. He naturally sensed that Tang San was now pushing his various bloodline imprints to the next level. Even though these Crimson Fox girls might not fully understand what they were witnessing, it was better to prevent them from seeing too much. Meanwhile, Zhang Haoshuan himself stared intently at Tang San. He was well aware that what he was witnessing right now was an extraordinary scene, something that had never happened in the entire history of the demon continent. The golden rock in Apos' wings solidified gradually, a sharp aura piercing the sky and slicing through the vast expanse. The golden light slowly retracted as the golden rock transformation reached the sixth order, further enhancing its speed. After the golden rock transformation breakthrough, everything around Tang San seemed to slow down, as if time itself was becoming viscous. Yet the next instant, everything around him seemed to accelerate, and the rate at which he absorbed the natural essence of heaven and earth suddenly surged. The golden saplings beside Tang San grew at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a moment they were a whole inch taller. The silhouette of the chrono croc slowly emerged. Its body began to swell, its scales became increasingly thick, and it radiated a soft halo. In its eyes, light rotated clockwise to the left and counterclockwise on the right, and under its aura, it felt as if time became elusive and uncertain. A point of golden light shone on Tang San and Apos' forehead, and the silhouette of the chrono croc suddenly accelerated its evolution. Once its form stabilized, the chrono croc abruptly turned and flew back into Tang San and Apos' forehead, disappearing without a trace. The chrono croc transformation reached the sixth order as well, and with that, one more breakthrough was complete. The breakthroughs of both the golden rock transformation and the chrono croc transformation were smooth, obviously because Tang San had already reached the seventh order of cultivation and had connected the bridge between heaven and earth, making his endurance much greater than before. The dual cores, soul core and spirit core, that resonated with each other allowed his endurance to soar. In an endurance match, it would now take a god-level being to outlast him. By this point, the breakthrough process was more than halfway done. 4 of the 6 bloodline imprints had achieved their breakthrough. The next moment, a cluster of yellow light was removed from the energy vortex in Tang San's dantian. Under his control, the flash leopard bloodline imprint was pushed out and dissipated into the air. The eager silver light cluster instantly burst with brilliant light, and under Tang San and Apos' guidance it filled the empty position. As it took its place, it illuminated not only Tang San and Apos' entire dantian, but even the area on a 5-meter radius around him. The proud cry of a bird followed, causing the aura around Tang San to fluctuate violently. Zhang Haoshuan watched in shock as silver light continuously flickered around Tang San and Apos' body, followed by the emergence of spatial cracks in the void. It seemed that under Tang San and Apos' careful control, these spatial cracks did not appear near the golden saplings. Still, they were becoming more numerous and unstable, continuously slicing through the air and distorting space. What the? This is... No way he did what I think he did. On Tang San and Apos' forehead, streaks of golden light began to emerge, seemingly containing the power of space. They constantly twisted and trembled as if they were about to tear his body apart. However, the brightest point of golden light at the center deterred these distorted spatial fluctuations from causing destructive effects. One by one, splendid peacock feathers slowly unfurled behind Tang San, blooming in full glory like a peacock in Apos' Wheel of Light. Peacock transformation. He has even acquired the peacock transformation. He must have absorbed it from Mei Gongzi. Zhang Haoshuan gulped hard. The spectacle in front of his eyes only served to reinforce his view of Tang San as an unfathomably deep pool. Celestial Fox, Peacock Demon, Chrono Croc, Golden Rock, Aran and Apos'. All of these top-tier existences? Especially the Celestial Fox and Peacock Demon. Both bloodlines have produced demon emperors. What does it mean for all humanity?